Yo, what's up, fellas? NBA deeper dive here, Stokastic.com. Got a little four-game slate post-trade deadline, so it should be pretty exciting. Shout out to our sponsor, Sorare. We'll talk about them in a little bit, and we got the perfect guy to help us break down the NBA action today. Shit My Money DFS, Adam Scherer. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Always fun when the deeper dive is completely different than the strategy show, and that's going to be the case today.
Yeah, there's some big news that has been breaking throughout the day, so it should be pretty interesting. I'm excited to talk about some of the big plays today. And let's talk a little trade deadline. I feel like the biggest trade was Kevin Durant to the Suns. What do you think?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I was asleep before it happened, so I woke up today. I had no idea it had happened. I saw I had a message from Josh that said something about the NBA completely changing while he was asleep, but I know that he goes to bed at like 8:30 every night, so I figured he was talking about like the Lakers trade. And I got on Twitter and then saw all the Durant stuff and realized that my Lakers ticket that had gotten slightly better last night to win the Western Conference was now absolutely terrible.
Oh man, that's a bad beat. Yeah, I found out through Chris Randone's Instagram story about the trade, so that was an interesting way because I also fell asleep before it happened. But that one's big, like the Kyrie one, not a trade deadline, but that one was pretty big. Seemed like the Lakers made some improvements, but like on most of these teams, we're not going to see the ramifications of these trades for a little bit. Were there any other trades that stood out to you?
I did love the Lakers trade. I thought that they really filled up a lot of the holes that they have in that trade. So I thought that was really good and probably going a little bit under appreciated since the Kevin Durant trade followed it up, and obviously that was huge. But I did really like that trade.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that the idea of just like surrounding LeBron with a lot of good three-point shooters. Like I'm surprised no one ever thought of that before.
Yeah,
So
definitely not something people have been talking about for the last like half decade.
oh guys, don't adjust your dials. This is the Thursday show, not the Wednesday show yesterday. I know there are probably some questions about that. Um, all right, so let's get into the action, guys. Before we get the breakdown going here, if you could hit that thumbs up button, greatly appreciate that. And I just want to let you guys know about a new YouTube channel we have, the Odd Shopper Golf channel. That's our PGA betting channel. So if you guys are into betting PGA, make sure to sub to start Odd Shopper Golf. And we got Ben, former ISU caddy, Eric, Lindquist, Aton, and more. So that'll be fun because PGA you can get some pretty crazy odds on outrights and stuff. So make sure to sub to that. All right, so the first game we got Denver at Orlando. A lot of 7 p.m. games today, so the late news isn't going to be as big a factor, I think. But in this first game, we got Jamal Murray questionable. Besides that, okay, you got the trade with the Lakers with Thomas Bryant landed on the Nuggets. What I for those who weren't paying attention, not that I was one of them. What happened with the Nuggets at the trade deadline?
Pretty so they sent Bones Highland to the Clippers, which doesn't matter because he hasn't been in the rotation. They got Thomas Bryant, which also doesn't matter. Not going to be there today, and I assume just backing up Nikola Jokic. So nothing that affects them. On the other side, Orlando traded Mo Bamba, but again, not really in the rotation. So nothing from the trade deadline should matter here. The Jamal Murray news obviously matters.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. Some news, just league news. Will Barton being bought out. That's not a huge surprise. I'm surprised he hasn't been playing this year very much, but
He's been extremely bad.
well, that explains it. Okay, so we only have 4 games here. Obviously, Nikola Jokic is going to be a huge priority, especially with LeBron out. So he's looking like a great value at 11K. Is he going to be a big priority for you today?
Yeah, he looks great. I mean, even if Murray is in, 11K Jokic on a slate with essentially infinite value is going to look really, really good. Good matchup for him. Only 4 games. Like there is still opportunity cost at center because you have some other very good center plays as well, but clearly stands out. We have him projected neck and neck with Giannis to be the highest scorer on the slate. You also now do have Anthony Davis looking very, very good and in that range as well. But like looking at our projections, you have a 12-point gap between Anthony Davis and the 4th highest projected player, and then Davis and Giannis, Jokic, Davis separated by about 3 points in total. So just going to be easy to get probably 2 of those 3 into most of your lineups if you want to. Certainly one of them. Jokic clearly looks like a priority here, but that projection also goes up if Jamal Murray is out because then you're getting even more usage from Jokic.
That makes sense. Yeah, so we got a few different studs to pay up for today. As you mentioned, a lot of good values. So it seems like the lineups are almost going to build themselves today. What's your experience been like so far?
Yeah, I mean, so I haven't built anything really yet other than a placeholder. But the one thing I do like is there's enough value where you can still switch stuff around. It's not like one of those slates where like there's 3K guys that like you have to play. At least there's, like 6 or 7 of them, so you can get kind of creative.
Nice. Okay, so with the rest of the Denver Nuggets, if Jamal Murray is potentially ruled out, obviously that means more ball handling for Jokic, but would it be Ish Smith night?
So possibly. Keep in mind that Bruce Brown did get hurt early in that game against Minnesota, and then it was also a massive blowout. So that definitely had a lot to do with Ish Smith's playing time. Brown went to the bench at the 8-minute 55-second mark of the first quarter. He came back at the end of the first, played a little bit into the second, then went back to the bench because he picked up a foul. I'm not really sure. Or he aggravated his injury. I'm not sure which. Then he did close the half, but you only got a total of about like 11 minutes in the first half from Bruce Brown. You're certainly expecting more than that if Murray is out. So I'd be cautious with Ish Smith. He's still likely to be the backup point guard here. Doesn't have to be though. You could just get those minutes going to Christian Brown. So I definitely be cautious with him, especially given how much value we're going to have. If you're playing large field tournaments and you want to basically, hope to get lucky on a cheap, low-owned Ish Smith if Murray is out, then fine. But definitely wouldn't read much into his playing time from last game.
That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, Bruce Brown seems like he'd be more likely to get those minutes, so Ish being just backup. So probably not as exciting. Now with the rest of the team, KCP, Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon all seem, all right, but are you gonna have them in your lineups?
So Gordon and all 3 of them, they kind of just look like secondary last piece in type guys if Jamal Murray is in. Right now, you have a 14% chance of Aaron Gordon being optimal on DraftKings, 10% for KCP, 9 for Michael Porter Jr. They're all pulling 5 to 10% ownership. They're just, the last guy in where if you think about building your lineups in terms of how you would hand build, you're starting with your value pieces, which are predominantly going to be coming from Phoenix, and then your spend up where, you're talking about Jokic, Giannis, Davis, however you want to allocate your exposures there. I think, when you get to the end of the lineup and it's like, oh, I need a $6,200 forward or a $6,800 forward, Gordon and Porter are going to look fine, but they're not the guys that you're starting with. If Murray is out, you do get increased production for all of them, and it is going to make them look better.
Nice. So we'll surely get the Jamal Murray news for lock. So you guys will be getting that at some point during the show. But let's move on to the Magic. So they traded Mo Bamba. Let's see who they got. I'm not really seeing a ton of new names on the roster here. So it looks like they got Patrick Beverly. Is there anyone else they picked up here?
They got Beverly. They sent out Mo Bamba. It doesn't matter. The biggest news from them today is that Gary Harris is out, which potentially opens up a little bit more playing time for Jalen Suggs at 3,600. Probably also opens up more minutes for Cole Anthony. But you've seen Suggs playing similar minutes to Cole Anthony now and only coming in at 3,600. So I do think he's going to look better with Harris out. I'm interested to see who starts in place of Harris.
Yeah, that'll be intriguing. So hopefully we'll get a starting lineup before 6 or 7 p.m. So okay, we just got the news from Underdog here. Pistons plan to start James Wiseman going forward. That is quite the interesting tidbit because they have so many bigs already. So what do you make of that?
I have no idea what the Pistons are doing. I haven't known what the Pistons were doing since they signed Marvin Bagley. Um, I don't know. Then they walked into Jalen Duren appearing to be good, and now they're starting James Wiseman. I have no idea what they're doing.
Maybe Duran's too good. They're trying to
Right.
get some Victor
Yeah.
Wembanyama or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe that was the play. Everybody's trying to figure out why they just grabbed another center, and their plan was just to lose easier.
Yeah, definitely. They gotta just play them all at the same time. That'd be great.
Yeah, to start playing Duren at the three.
Okay, so on the Orlando side, Harris is out, Okiki's out still. So Suggs, he's been pretty inconsistent, it feels like. How much confidence would you have in him if he starts?
If he starts, I'd be relatively confident. Like you're still putting him into a situation where it's going to be difficult for him to be a really high usage guy because he's going to be playing a lot of minutes alongside Fultz, Carter, Banchero. Franz Wagner is not a low usage guy either. So he is somebody that I'd be somewhat concerned about his per minute production going from a bench role to a starter role. But you also can just feel better about his minutes because if he starts, he's getting the first crack at those minutes, and it's just going to increase his minutes projection. If they were to go to like Cole Anthony as the starter or go to like Kevon Harris, Caleb Houston, one of the random guys, then I think the point per minute production for Suggs is going to look better. But you're still kind of stuck in that role where it's like, okay, well, he's probably playing like 20 to 22 minutes, and they're giving more to whoever's starting. So if he starts, I think it's a net positive, but the production per minute is likely to come down.
Nice. Now, are you surprised that the Magic didn't make more moves at the trade deadline? Because it seems a little bit awkward, like bringing Cole Anthony off the bench for Markelle Fultz. Like, are those two guys that just don't seem like they can play very well together?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. The Magic obviously don't care about winning. I don't know what the interest was. I don't know what their contracts look like.
Okay, definitely. So, as far as the DFS plays, Markelle Fultz, he seems like he's pretty cheap at 5,700. Franz Wagner, a little bit overpriced at 6,300 on DK. But someone like Fultz, who's a little bit above 5x value today, like would he stand out as someone that you're prioritizing, or is it just like too much of a stars and scrubs day?
He's kind of in a weird spot where I wouldn't call him a priority because there's going to be a lot of guys on this slate that you're just kind of jamming in, and he's not there. But he's also a better play probably than anything else on this team other than maybe Jalen Suggs if he starts. 5,700 is a good price tag considering you're getting typically 30 to 32 minutes from Fultz. Maybe you even get a couple more here with Gary Harris out, although I think it's likely they just expand their rotation. But 20% ownership, like I think he's just like the epitome of a secondary option. You're going to get a good amount, or you should get a good amount of Markelle Fultz here, probably more than his teammates, but also not to the same level that you're prioritizing those pay up options or the very cheap value options.
That makes sense. Now, do you think Mo Bamba not being on the team anymore makes any difference for Wendell Carter Jr. as far as like ceiling minutes, or
no, they've been using Mo Wagner as the backup when Carter and Mo Wagner are both healthy. So last game was a DNP for Bamba. That's been the case a lot recently. Well, he was actually suspended last game, never mind. But that's been the case recently anyway, when they're both healthy, as you've been getting Mo Wagner as the backup.
Cool. So what about Paulo Banchero? He looks like he's a little bit overpriced today. That just seems like a guy that maybe a contrarian play.
Yeah, like the upside is always going to be there for him, but I think it's pretty much a correct price tag, if not a little bit too expensive. The minutes are there. You should get 33, 34 minutes from him, but you have seen the rates come down a little bit as the season's gone on from earlier in the year because you do have a healthy Wendell Carter Jr. playing 30 minutes. You have a healthy Markelle Fultz playing 30 minutes. If he does start, Jalen Suggs is a higher usage guy than Gary Harris. If it's Cole Anthony, he's also a higher usage guy than Gary Harris. If it's Kevon Harris or Caleb Houston, then you kind of have that Gary Harris usage. But there's a potential that you're getting even less usage available for Banchero. So the ceiling's always there for him because he is a good player and he does play a lot of minutes. But this just doesn't strike me as the slate where it's going to be that easy to get to him because a lot of lineups that you build with him, you're just going to look at it and say like, oh, well, this would be a lot better if I just made him like some 3K guy from the Suns and then upgraded somewhere else.
Makes sense. Is there anyone else in this game that you feel like we should be thinking about in DFS?
Not really. I think it's pretty much just whoever the starters, all look at least decent. If it's Suggs or Anthony starting, or even if it's like Bol starting, I'm interested in whichever of them it is. If you get Caleb Houston or Kevon Harris starting, I don't really care. I would expect them to be a placeholder, and that you would still just be focusing on getting to Fultz, Suggs, Carter, Banchero, Franz Wagner.
Nice. Just an update from News God. We got Yuta Watanabe ruled in, so nothing too exciting, but good to know here. And we got a Magic starting lineup. Suggs is starting. So,
Yeah.
How does he rate him as far as value plays?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to look good now. Again, you're not expecting him to be great on a point per minute basis. I wanted to see what he's done alongside Banchero so far this year, but him starting at that cheap of a price tag and knowing that he is capable of, getting hot and scoring is going to make him look like a good value. He's played 245 minutes with Banchero on the floor so far this year, only a 19.5% usage rate, 0.77 DraftKings points per minute. And that's just with Banchero. That's without adding any of the other starters, but he's just cheap enough where if he does go out there and play like 28 minutes or so, he's going to look like a pretty good option at that price. He's only played 42 minutes with Fultz and Banchero together, so can't really read anything into that. But if you expect him to be around a 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy at that price, he's a good value.
Yeah, I'm praying he gets some good minutes today because he's in my Sorare lineup. So hoping to get a tier 2 at least. Guys, if you haven't signed up for if you're in a legal sports betting state and you haven't signed up for these books, like you're leaving a lot of money on the table, sitting on a potential gold mine. And right now we have a special deal with BetMGM where you can get $1,000 free bet and a month of Stokastic Plus Platinum free. So that free bet, if you take advantage of the full amount, it's worth $600 or $700 of EV, and then our package is like 100 and something. So that's a crazy amount of value you're getting for signing up for BetMGM. And you just click the link in the description below, or use a promo code Platinum Sub. So it's a free bet, so you get paid back if you lose the bet. And make sure if you don't already have some strong leans on what to bet, our Bet Pro package has a ton of great bets you can use this with. So check that out. Legal age for gambling is 21 and up. And if you know anyone who has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. So if you haven't signed up for MGM, just make sure to click that link in the description. Get that free month of Stokastic Plus and the $3,000 bet with $1,000 deposit. All right. And the next game, we got Chicago at Brooklyn. So on the Chicago side, Alex Caruso seemingly made it through the trade deadline unscathed. It looks like the Bulls pretty much stood pat at the deadline. Did they have any moves?
No.
Okay. So what we're having as far as injury news is DeMar DeRozan is questionable. So that's pretty big. If he was out, that means Zach LaVine would get a lot more usage. Sumu, Caruso, like maybe some more opportunities. How are you playing this one?
Yeah, so if DeRozan's in, it makes Chicago kind of just like a secondary team across the board because you're going to you still have high ceilings from Vooch, DeRozan, LaVine, just based on their playing time, how good they are and a favorable matchup. But they eat into each other enough where their median projections are all just going to look pretty mediocre. If DeRozan's out, though, it makes Vooch and LaVine look a lot better just because their usage is going to go up. Their per minute production is going to go up. Obviously, LaVine burned a lot of people against Memphis the other day, but you can't read anything into that. Like he's a better point per minute guy when DeRozan's not out there. But then it also opens up more potential value with Alex Caruso at 3,800 likely starting and playing 26 to 28 minutes. Ayo Dosunmu's minutes are more secure at 4,200. Granted, on this slate, neither of those guys are going to be very appealing value options because they're not very good points per dollar. You're going to get just better point per dollar or points per minute rather, and you're going to get better point per dollar projections from guys on Phoenix. But it would open them up as contrarian value plays. Whereas if DeRozan's in, I really don't want any part of the Dosunmu or Caruso.
Yeah, that's fair. And since DeRozan missed last game, it seems like the prices account for the fact that maybe he could miss this one. So honestly, if he does play, I'm not seeing a ton on the Bulls. One note, Andre Drummond, like, I don't think anyone played him last slate, but he like went ape. Didn't he get like over 50 fantasy
That
points or
was
something?
two slates ago.
Oh, my bad.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so his minutes are impacted by the injury news. Or Josh and I had talked about him two slates ago. That if Caruso was out, you were getting those backup center minutes for Drummond, and he was out, and Drummond, crushed in those minutes. Last slate, you got Caruso back, but you still got DeRozan out, so you got Drummond playing all of the backup center minutes. He didn't have as big a game, but if DeRozan is out, you are likely once again getting a $3,300 Drummond playing 13 minutes or so. But on this slate, that's even riskier than usual, given that you can just get a bunch of 3K guys playing 30 minutes if you go to the Phoenix game.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fade. Just too many people be chasing it, but that was good to know that Andre Drummond has it in him to just break a slate like for no reason. So I feel like since he's not getting all the backup minutes, you can't really play him, but that'll be interesting. Is there anyone on the Bulls that we haven't talked about that you're interested in here?
No, I mean, Patrick Williams would be a decent play on a normal slate, but tonight I think it's pretty tough to pay 4,800 for Williams when you can just get somebody that projects similarly or better for 2/3 the price.
Definitely. Now on the Brooklyn side, Cam Thomas has really been picking up the slack for the Nets. And I think he has 3 40-point games, real points in a row. So his price tag has risen all the way to 7,800 on DK, 7,300 on FanDuel. So he's grading out as kind of a rough value. Would this be one where you try to ride the wave, or is this one where it's just like you gotta hope for regression?
So there's two things that impact what I want to do with Cam Thomas here. For one, like, he's certainly become more expensive. He doesn't project that well anymore. You have Spencer Dinwiddie back, and you expect him to cut into Cam Thomas's production. We don't know the starting lineup. If Cam Thomas is coming off the bench, there's no way in hell I'm paying 7,800 for him, like, ever. If he's starting, and right now we have him projected for 6% ownership. If he's starting and not getting any ownership, and you want to just hope that you get Cam Thomas, remaining the alpha in this offense and shooting a ton, which certainly could happen, because we've seen Spencer Dinwiddie can be the guy offensively, but he's also defers a lot. Granted, playing with Cam Thomas is not like playing with Bradley Beal or Luka Doncic, but Spencer Dinwiddie is someone that will just be like a low usage guy alongside other scoring dependent guards. So that is a possibility. I don't think it's the most likely case here. I think that Thomas is certainly overpriced from a median standpoint. It's just that there is a lot of volatility here if he starts, because we really don't know what this offense is going to look like with new pieces coming in. And we don't really know what Cam Thomas is, other than somebody that is very, very willing to chuck up shots if you give him the ball and is good at scoring. So there is a lot of volatility here, but I still just have a tough time getting to him at 7,800, even if he is starting, given that, you have Dinwiddie there now as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, it just seems like the price is caught up with the production. There are like certain times in NBA where sometimes guys just completely change their role, but it seems like maybe for Cam Thomas, well, he's definitely getting more minutes, but the shooting seems a little bit unsustainable. Like if he's getting 40 points in a game over the last 5 games, he has a 70% true shooting percentage, which if he can maintain that, he might be one of the best players in the league. All right. Now Dinwiddie is the obvious new addition to the team. Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges also are on the team, but they're not expected to be active tonight. So, and then Dorian Finney-Smith also came over from the Mavs, but he's not like an amazing fantasy player, and the price seems a little bit high. So, how are you reacting to all these moving pieces for the Nets?
I really don't think there's too much to like here outside of Nick Claxton, because the price tags are expensive. Dinwiddie's at 8,100. We don't know what the rotation is going to look like. We don't know what the minutes are going to look like right out of the gate. It would be interesting if he was like 6,500, 7K, because how good he was in Dallas when Luka wasn't in, for example. And you could certainly get similar opportunities for him here, where the only other remotely high usage guy is Cam Thomas, but you just don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So you can make a similar case for Dinwiddie as I just did with Cam Thomas. I think I would also definitely argue that it's more likely Dinwiddie is the guy than Thomas. So I do like him slightly more, but it's still the same situation where he's likely correctly priced at best and overpriced most likely. So it's just outside of like hoping to get volatility really breaking in your favor in large field tournaments. I don't really see a case to get there. But Nick Claxton is very good without Kevin Durant on the floor. He's playing big minutes recently. This is a game that has a 1-point spread, 225 total. Claxton looks good, and he's pulling 22% ownership. He did become a little bit more difficult to get to when LeBron got ruled out, especially on DraftKings, where you only have center eligibility on Anthony Davis. So now you have Jokic and you have Davis at the same position as Claxton. It's going to make him more difficult to get to. But still a very high upside play.
Yeah, definitely. Claxton looks like a pretty good value in DK. On FanDuel at 8,400, a little more expensive. Maybe not quite as exciting, but certainly in play. Now, Ben Simmons, I saw a quote from him that he's like, it might take me a year or two to get back to my like game from 2 years ago. Did you see that?
No, I didn't, but
Seems accurate. Like, apparently the trade market for Ben Simmons was not that hot this trade deadline. But yeah, what do you think of the Nets overall now that their whole roster is flipped over?
I thought they were going to probably make additional moves before the deadline. They have a decent enough team. Like they're not a contending team, but like they're deep. They have a lot of good wings. They're going to be a pain in the ass for DFS for a while, given the way this team looks now. But they're obviously not all there yet. But with the guys there, there's nothing that stands out price wise that makes me want to get to them outside of Claxton.
In the chat, Stephen Reynolds says you're solid perfect on your Boucher call and thanks, Ships. So good one there.
Yeah, thanks. It would have been better if Jalen Noel didn't score 50.
Yeah. That it seems about expected from trade deadline slate.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. We got Sorare. If you guys haven't heard of Sorare, they really started off huge in the fantasy football space, and by football I mean soccer. So like it's kind of NFTs. They have I mean the company is worth like $1 billion or something crazy. So this is like big time. They just launched NBA this season, and the way it works, you buy NFTs and then you compete, or you can play for free. They have a free to play as well. And then you compete in the contest to win more of these cards. So what you gotta do is head over to Sorare and sign up for an account. Let's see. If you use our link, you get a free limited card after completing your first 5 purchases on the primary market. So make sure to use that link in the description. And essentially the way it works is similar to other DFS sites where they have a salary cap. The way their salary cap works is it's based on the average points a player has scored over the last 10 games. So guys that are moving into bigger minutes, like Cam Thomas was a sick play this week. They become really good values, and you also get to play a guy like Luka for free. So you get one free guy in half their tournaments, and that really gives a ton of value to the real studs. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. If you're interested, make sure to click that link. We got a primer on Sorare on the site that I wrote to help you guys get started. And also we have Sorare projections on the site. Their contests run on Monday to Thursday, and sorry, it starts on Mondays and Fridays. So Monday to Thursday and Friday to Sunday are when the games are played. You get the top score of each player for that period. So it's pretty tough to figure out the projections for all the players, but we have it all sorted out on the back end to give you guys the best advice. All right. So next game we got let's see. Phoenix at Atlanta, and you mentioned Phoenix is the team of the night as far as injuries. I mean, they traded off a few starters, and then you got Cameron Payne, Devin Booker, Shamet, They just got TJ Warren, but he is not expected to play as of now. Darius Baisley as well. So really you got Chris Paul and then Aiden and then a bunch of kind of low usage guys. So what are you expecting here?
Yeah, so they only have 9 active bodies, and 3 of those are DeAndre Ayton, Bismack Biyombo, and Jock Landale. So you're going to just get a ton of playing time from these guys at very cheap price tags. And you're also getting a bump in production from Ayton and Paul playing without Devin Booker. We saw Chris Paul's price tag actually drop a little bit after his last game. He's down to 7,300. So he looks really, really good as a very high upside mid-range option. DeAndre Ayton at 7,900, pulling 27% ownership certainly looks good. The problem there, again, is you have Davis, you have Jokic, you also have Vooch, maybe without DeRozan, you have Claxton. So, it is a very deep center position, even for a 4-game slate. But those 2 guys are going to look good. But then you just get all this value elsewhere. You have Dario Saric was going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. Now he's no longer on the team. So you have Josh Okogie pulling 55% ownership. He's 3K. He hadn't been in the rotation recently, but now you just lost half the rotation. So he's a good point per minute guy. He can play multiple positions. So that makes him, easy. It makes it easier for him to get on the floor here, not to mention they don't have bodies, so they don't really have a choice. So he's pulling 55% ownership with a 54% chance of being optimal. Damian Lee at 3,200, pulling 68% ownership with a 50% chance of being optimal. Ish Wainwright at 3K, pulling 38% ownership, 27% chance of being optimal. Those guys just all look like good values, Okogie and Lee in particular. I'm surprised to see the ownership coming into Jock Landale. He's a 3K center on DraftKings. I thought he was going to be like a sneaky good tournament play today because the position makes it tough to prioritize him. And we don't know exactly how they're going to run this rotation, but they have played Landale alongside DeAndre Ayton for about 35 minutes this year. And they are going up against an Atlanta team that, plays John Collins alongside Capella and Okongwu. So I do expect that you see some minutes from Landale alongside Ayton. I didn't expect him to be pulling this much ownership already. So I think he's a really interesting piece to talk about because he does project well. He's a good value, but assuming he's not starting, if he starts, then this is different because that signals right out of the gate that they're playing him minutes alongside Ayton. But if he's not starting, there's a chance that he plays, a few minutes alongside Ayton, but doesn't play enough to be a great option, especially when he's center only. If most of these guys, Josh Okogie, shooting guard, small forward, Damian Lee, point guard, shooting guard, Wainwright is power forward, Craig is small forward, power forward. Those guys are at positions that are a little bit weaker. If you get, let's even say 27, 28 DraftKings points from Jock Landale today, and some combination of the centers, either Jokic and Davis go for like 60 and 70, or Vooch goes for 55, or Claxton goes for, 50, 45, something like that. Because of how much value there is at other positions, that 27 from Landale at a position where it necessarily means you missed out on one of those other centers is probably hurting you in terms of winning, especially larger field tournaments. So at the ownership, I'm actually kind of hesitant to get to Landale. I thought he was going to be a lower owned, like really good contrarian play, but at the ownership, I think I would rather just go to the guys at weaker positions with lower opportunity cost and then be able to get to, more of Jokic, Davis, Claxton, Ayton, Vooch.
Yeah, the fact that he's a center only, that does make it harder to play him because there's only 2 spots as opposed to 3 or more. So,
and Jokic now looks better.
Yeah, so we just got the news Jamal Murray is out today. So we'll circle back on that in a few minutes here, but let's talk about Phoenix. So they have like it makes sense that they play Landale at the 4 because like if they're going to use all 9 guys, Bismack Biyombo, he only plays center, Aiden only plays center. So Landale can shoot some threes, he can space the floor a little bit, so it does make sense that he could play a good amount of minutes at the power forward. But what do you think the chances are that he starts?
I think it's decent. My guess at the starting lineup would be Paul, Lee, Craig, Okogie, Ayton. And if that's the case, my concern is just what if they play like what if they just play Landale as the backup center and he plays, 6 minutes alongside Ayton or something. Like if they run let's say if that's the starting lineup, there's at least a possibility that they run an 8-man rotation and Biyombo doesn't play. and or that, they run like an 8.5 man and you get like 12 minutes from Biyombo, 30 from Ayton, 6 at center from Landale. And then like he could play, 14 at the 4 and you're still only getting 20 minutes total. So like that's my concern if he comes off the bench. If he starts, then I think you're projecting at least like 24 minutes from him, since they're just right out of the gate playing him alongside Ayton. But there's nothing stopping them if he's coming off the bench. Like you could just have Saben Lee play more minutes than are expected. You can have Ish Wainwright play more minutes than are expected. You have a bunch of guys still on this team that can play multiple positions, whether that's Wainwright, Craig, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie. All of these guys can be used. Like if the Suns want to, they can pretty easily just give a lot of minutes to Okogie, Lee, Paul, Ayton, Wainwright, Craig, and Saben Lee, and not have to give Jack Landale a ton at the 4. So that's my concern if he comes off the bench.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if he's off the bench, that's going to make him look a lot less good. So keep an eye on this Suns starting lineup throughout the night. The point guard position, you got Chris Paul and Saben Lee. Is Saben Lee someone you think can play multiple positions, or is like he's a pretty ball dominant guard? So I'm thinking that there's a good chance that you just don't see him play very much.
Yeah, I'm expecting. Oh, good.
Yeah, they just don't have a lot of guys, so maybe they'll try to make something work.
Yeah, my expectation is that Saben Lee is essentially the backup to Chris Paul. Maybe he gets a couple minutes alongside of him. So I think that's like a very reasonable expectation. And also, I expect Landale to play some next to Ayton, but it's an unprecedented spot for them. And like they're gonna have to do some things that they're not comfortable with because they're just forced into that situation right now. So, am I extremely confident that Jack Landale is the one that plays out of position instead of Saben Lee? No. I think it's likely, but that's kind of the thing is like if you look at this box score tomorrow and it's like, oh wow, they played Saben Lee a lot more minutes alongside Chris Paul than I thought they would. It's not like that should shock anybody. It's going to be like, yeah, cool. They had 9 bodies and 3 of them were centers.
Yeah, definitely. This is a tough spot for the Suns here, personnel wise. So with the rest of the team, Damian Lee seems like a prime candidate to get a ton of minutes because he does play a position that, they're weak on depth. So he's looking like an awesome play at 3,200. Like I wouldn't really have any worries about his minutes. So I'm kind of curious, like, okay, Damian Lee, how do you compare him versus like Josh Okogie, for instance?
Yeah, so if one of them starting and the other isn't, I certainly prefer the starter. My guess is that they both start. In which case, they project very similarly. We have Okogie at 23.5 DraftKings points. We have Lee at 23.9. I think it's likely Lee plays a couple more minutes just because he's clearly been ahead of Okogie in the rotation recently. Played 22 minutes off the bench last game. Obviously, you're not reading into the actual minutes there, but he was second to Torrey Craig in bench minutes last game. So I'm expecting a lot of minutes from Damian Lee. I'm expecting less from Okogie. Okogie is the better point per minute guy so far this year. 0.94 DraftKings points per minute for Okogie, 0.75 for Damian Lee. So that's why you get them coming out pretty similarly in terms of projection.
That makes sense. Now, honestly, like all the Suns look playable in our projections. Ish Wainwright's like the one we haven't talked about. He is clearly someone that like he's kind of like an undersized player who plays as a big. So this seems like the kind of spot where he could play a lot more minutes than the normal. Do you have any interest in Wainwright?
Yeah, less than the other guys just because he's only a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. So basically, he's giving you slightly less production per minute than Damian Lee, but also likely to play fewer minutes than Lee. But you're also seeing less ownership there. I think it's important kind of on these non-Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton guys to keep in mind who the best point per minute guys are, just because at least with them, if you get the minutes, you should be good. You're not kind of trying to get lucky in 2 ways. And that's why Landale does project a little bit better. Like he's a fantasy point per minute guy this year. As long as you get the minutes, you should be good with Landale. There is just reason for concern on exactly how many minutes he plays. But Josh Okogie, 0.94 DraftKings points per minute is the other like actual good point per minute guy out of that group. Then you have 0.8 for Craig, 0.75 for Lee, 0.7 for Wainwright. Saben Lee's at 0.93 also. So, he's a good point per minute guy if he gets the minutes. But again, it's unlikely, I think, that he plays a ton, just given that I expect Chris Paul to play a lot and I don't expect them to share the floor all that much.
Agreed. Now, let's go to the Denver Nuggets again because Jamal Murray is out. So kind of circling back, we gotta think Jokic is gonna see more ball handling. Bruce Brown probably gets a good amount of minutes. How does this change the ratings of players for you?
Yeah, I mean, it makes the whole team look better. Jokic should get more usage as well without Murray on the floor. He's just going to be a better point per minute guy. So I think when we talked about Denver before, I mentioned that he was projected about the same as Giannis. I expect when we update projections, he'll be ahead of Giannis now with Murray being out and he'll be the highest projected guy on the slate. He's at 1.67 DraftKings points per minute with Jamal Murray on the floor this year. If you take Jamal Murray off, you get him. It's not updating. I think he's like 1.8, something like that. I'll let you know as soon as it comes up. But off the top of my head, I think he's around like 1.8 without Murray on the floor. But you also get increased production for Aaron Gordon. You get increased production for Michael Porter Jr. You get increased playing time for Bruce Brown, assuming he doesn't get hurt. 1.71 DraftKings points per minute, nearly a 30% usage rate for Jokic without Murray on the floor, 43.7% assist percentage. So not as big a bump in production as I expected, but still a slight increase in production and an increase in rates. So you get a little bit higher ceiling.
Nice. I'm kind of feeling Bruce Brown is a pretty good play now at 4,900. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes, and he's been a pretty decent per minute guy this year. How does he stack up with the new Nuggets starting lineup?
Yeah, I think he looks like another just good value piece. He's likely to be giving you north of 30 minutes here, assuming he doesn't get hurt. He's averaged 0.86 DraftKings points per minute for the season. On a lot of slates, he'd just be one of the highest owned guys now at 4,900 on DraftKings. Now I think he's more of a secondary option just because you do still have all of those Phoenix guys that are cheaper. But on DraftKings, he also has point guard, small forward eligibility, which is about as appealing as it gets. So certainly a good play.
So we got a new ownership projection update 10 minutes ago. Damian Lee at 60%. Josh Okogie's at 40%, and Jack Landale is at 24%.
Okay,
Does that
makes
change?
sense.
Does that change your takes on any of the Phoenix guys?
It makes me more willing to play Landale. At 40%, it was just like, man, like that can go south really quickly. 24% seems a lot more reasonable to me.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think the center is just tough to get these guys in your roster. So like one of the underappreciated things about ownership is like a guy like let's take a shooting guard slash small forward like Lonnie Walker today. You can put him in 5 positions on DK, where Landale you can only put him in 2. So like you can't really compare those ownership numbers like straight up.
Right.
And then Damian Lee is kind of in the middle. You can play him point guard, shooting guard, guard, or utility. So that's all part of the trickiness of NBA is not all these positions are equal. So
yeah, and then and like I mentioned it a lot, but to your point, like if you can only be rostered at 2 positions, you're just going to have a much higher opportunity cost because the minute you put Jack Landale in your lineup, it means you don't have Jokic plus Anthony Davis or Jokic plus Vooch or whatever. So, whereas you talk about like a point guard small forward with Bruce Brown, you can basically pick any 2 guys and say, well, I still want these 2 guys in the lineup, and you're going to be able to find a spot where Bruce Brown fits.
totally. So that's something that's factored into our optimal lineup calculations as well. So just because 2 guys kind of project as similar values doesn't mean they are going to be optimal the same because of that, especially. All right. On the Atlanta side, surprisingly little value for this slate. They did trade for Sadiq Bey. So that was kind of their trade deadline acquisition as well as Garrison Matthews. Seems like not a ton here. What's your take?
Yeah, not a lot changed here from a fantasy standpoint.
Okay. So Trae Young, he's 9,100. That's a pretty reasonable price. I think Capella, he'd be interesting, except center is so loaded. So seems like Collins and Trae Young may fall in the contrarian bucket today. How are you playing these guys?
Yeah, the only guy that really stands out to me is Trae Young. He's pulling 25% ownership, 24% chance of being optimal. Actually, I need to update since we just got new ownership, but 9,100 is a cheap price tag for him. So I still like getting there. I don't really know why he is this price. He's a good way you can go. Like him and Chris Paul are both those guys where, you can build quality lineups that pay up for two of the guys at the top. If you go with all three, you have 3,300 per position. So you probably can actually make a lineup with them just using the Suns around them. But they're a good way to go where, like, if you don't want to just jam in 5 Suns and then pay up for 2 or 3 spots, you're still getting a very high ceiling on guys like Trae Young and Chris Paul at these price tags that are just very favorable. And you're going up against a Phoenix team that is very shorthanded. It's not Trae Young against the normal Suns. It's Trae Young against mostly the Suns bench. So Young looks very good. The rest of this team, though, I think is tough to get to. DeJounte Murray isn't that much less expensive than Young. Clint Capella always gives you a nice ceiling, but it's just tough on this slate given all of the other center options. John Collins at 5,200 is he's one of those guys where, like, on normal slates, I'd have some interest just because he's likely to play 30 minutes, but he's been really disappointing this year from a fantasy and a real life standpoint. And it's just tough to really want to get to him on this slate. So the only guy that I would be expecting to get at a high frequency is Trae Young.
That makes sense. We actually just got another ownership update just now. Jock Landale's plummeting, man, 20% now. It seems like what you said about him is really driving people away.
Yeah, I think it should be coming down. Like, that initial ownership just didn't make a lot of sense. We also, I think, still have Jamal Murray in. So once we get new ownership with Jamal Murray out, I do expect that to also bring Landale's ownership down because it's going to make Jokic's projection higher.
Makes sense. Guys, so NBA betting, if you have it in your state, is a really easy way to make money. Like, I've been using our projections on the site, and so far this year, I've had an ROI of 61% plus 37K. Just posted the screenshot on Twitter today. So, I mean, I've been parlaying them together, so it's not like each straight bet is going to be 61% ROI clearly, but these are winners. And the thing you need to know about our Bet Pro package is the rate is going to be rising soon because we've been winning too much money. It's worth too much. But if you sign up now, you can get the current rate grandfathered in indefinitely. So make sure to check out Bet Pro. It's 7-day free trial, and then it's $16 per week or $56 per month. And yeah, these bets have been absolutely crushing recently. So at least this year when I've been betting them. And I think all the work we've been putting into data science behind the scenes to really make our models sharp is paying off. So make sure to take advantage. All right, the last game we got Milwaukee at LA. Milwaukee. Okay, so Joe Ingles is out. Jay Crowder, they just traded for him, right? So he's not playing today. Bobby Portis is still out. So nothing too crazy in the scope of this slate. One guy that I'm kind of surprised about is Chris Middleton. Like, it seems like he hasn't been getting the minutes recently, but with Jingles out, do you think this could be a day to buy in on Chris Middleton?
So it's not about Jingles for me. It's about I'm kind of bullish on his playing time based on last game. We saw him get up to 21 and a half minutes in that game, which isn't anything crazy. He'd been playing 20 minutes in previous games. But the thing that was interesting to me and makes me think maybe we're getting close to him, really ramping up, is that he subbed out in the fourth quarter at the same time that Giannis and Drew Holiday subbed out in a non-competitive game with 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go. He had played about 12 minutes in the first half. He subbed in at a similar mark in the fourth quarter as he had in the second quarter. And in the second quarter, he had closed that half. I think there's a chance that he was going to close this game, in which case that 21 and a half minutes actually would have been like 25, 26. So not that I think you project 25 or 26 here, but if you go to like 23 or 24 minutes on Middleton at 5,500 in a good matchup, it does make him look good. The ownership should be held in check a little bit just because of how weird this slate is and the amount of value that you have. And I still fully expect Middleton to be on some sort of minutes limit. But right now we actually have him at 25 minutes, which, makes him project well. Even if he plays 23 or 24, he's going to project well because they're still likely to be having him out there every minute that Giannis is not. So still a high percentage of Middleton's minutes are going to be where a lot of the offense is running through him, and you get a high usage rate as well. So probably a little bit underpriced here. Probably would be higher owned on normal slates. Here, it's kind of just, like he's a good secondary option, I think.
That makes sense. And it's a great matchup versus the Lakers. So yeah. What do you think the chance? Like he's probably going to rejoin the starting lineup sooner or later. Do you think there's a chance he starts tonight?
There's a chance. I assume they're just going to do it after the break.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right. So with that in mind, okay, Giannis and Drew Holiday both look like solid enough plays. Giannis in particular is just like the price is huge, but like with all the value, it helps to have someone soak up a ton of salary. So how are you playing him today?
Yeah, it's just so easy to get to him. He's forward eligible as well, so there's not as much opportunity cost as for Jokic and Davis. So, now he does likely project behind Jokic with Murray being out, but it's just really easy to get to two of these guys if you want to and still have very good pieces around them. So yeah, Giannis looks great, 42% ownership, fully deserved. It's also, with it being a 4-game slate, there's just not that many guys. Like, even if you get a relatively disappointing Giannis game and he scores, let's say, like 58 points, 58 DraftKings points, there's still a decent chance he ends up being in the optimal lineup just because there's not that many guys that can put up big games. So that's, another reason that you see that, in addition to the very good value, is why you're seeing a $12,300 Giannis still have nearly a 40% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Normally that number just can't be that high for the most expensive guy on the slate, but this one just shakes out perfectly for it to be easy to get to him. Drew Holiday is pulling 21% ownership, which on the surface, looks like a lot, but I basically think he's the Chris Paul pivot if you have a lineup where you just have a bunch of chalk guys and you need a guard in that price range. Because while 21% isn't nothing, it's half of the ownership Chris Paul is getting. And I think Chris Paul is the better play. I don't really think that there's any argument that Drew Holiday is a better option, but they are similar in terms of their range of outcomes. So it's a spot where, he's not unowned. It's hard to get unowned plays on a 4-game slate that are actually good plays. But, he is somebody that you're immediately just cutting that ownership in half if you go from Chris Paul to him in a lineup that is popular elsewhere.
Makes sense. All right, the other side of this game, the Lakers. This is probably the team in the night when it comes to our ownership. Phoenix is close, but 4 of the top 5 owned plays are Lakers. So LeBron was ruled out right before the show. In addition, they traded off Westbrook. They they made so many moves I can't even keep track of them all, but they brought in Malik Beasley, D'Angelo Russell, and Jared Vanderbilt. They are all not expected to play currently. So that leaves the team the pretty shortened roster today. And guys like Schroeder and Lonnie Walker are probably going to have to pick up a little bit of slack. Hachimura looks like a pretty good value. So where are you starting here?
Pretty much anywhere you want. I mean, Anthony Davis looks great. He's 10,200. We'd seen his playing time ramp up recently anyway. Played 38 minutes 2 games ago. Last game against OKC, played 30.6, but you had a little bit of foul trouble, it looks like, in the second half. Didn't play well, but again, that was just, it was a really weird game. I don't know what was going on with him. I don't know if it was just trying to stay out of LeBron's way or what, but I don't really care. It was a bad game. Move on. The minutes should be there. He hasn't played a lot of minutes this year, less than 100, where neither of LeBron or Westbrook have been on the floor, but he has put up 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. Overall, since last year, he's still only played 265 without either of those guys on the floor, but he has a 31% usage rate, 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. But this year, he's also just a better point per minute player because, for one, he's playing better, but 2, he's just playing a lot more minutes at the 5, which is really productive for him. So Davis looks great, right up there with Jokic and Giannis in terms of the top options on the slate in terms of projection. Dennis Schroeder at 5K should play a lot of minutes with no Patrick Beverly, no Russell Westbrook, no LeBron. He sees a nice bump in production without those guys. You've gotten 105 minutes without LeBron or Westbrook on the floor this year for Schroeder, 26.7% usage rate, just over a fantasy point per minute. So at 5K, he's going to look like a very good value option, pulling 47%. We don't have any rates to work with on Rui at 4,800, but he should play a lot of minutes here with no LeBron. and just, all these minutes being available, he's going to look good. I assume he's going to be in the starting lineup. No guarantee there, but probably will, in which case I would expect him to play 30 plus minutes. Lonnie Walker's 3,100. He hasn't been playing much recently, but just a very shorthanded team right now. He has played 101 minutes without LeBron or Westbrook, 0.93 DraftKings points per minute, 25% usage rate. He's another guy that, isn't typically a high usage guy on this team because of LeBron, Davis, and Westbrook, but he's capable of being a higher usage guy. Whereas, Troy Brown really isn't. Austin Reeves really isn't. Wenyen Gabriel really isn't. So in addition to Anthony Davis, I expect Walker, Schroeder, and Rui to be the guys taking on more usage. You have a $3,400 price tag for Troy Brown, 0.57 DraftKings points per minute in 126 minutes without Westbrook and LeBron, only a 12% usage rate. So like I was saying, he's somebody where you're more so just hoping he's on the floor for a bunch of minutes. He's really cheap. He can just run into a good game through rebounds, defensive stats, if he happens to shoot better than usual from three. But when you talk about the guys like Schroeder, Rui, and Walker, those are guys whose games are more suited to be filling the workload left over by LeBron and Westbrook.
Definitely. Yeah, so I mean you can pretty much play anyone the Lakers, it sounds like. But whoever starts, I think those are gonna be the guys you want to target. Pretty much anyone that's gonna be in the starting lineup is gonna be a really good value. All right, I gotta ask you one question about, okay, they set the record last game. LeBron, he took the shot. AD, he's been all over Twitter for like not celebrating his teammate setting the scoring record. Have you been paying attention to that at all?
Yeah, I saw it. It was weird. Like, I just don't know what to make of it. It was obviously a short clip taken out of context, but it just looked really weird. My guess, to me, the most logical thing was that he was upset that he wasn't on the floor for it, and that's why he looked the way he did. But still, that's weird to not seem interested at all. But I don't know. It was really weird. I try not to read into clips like that, but it definitely seemed weirder than your usual thing that people make a big deal of.
Yeah, it definitely seemed a little dysfunctional for the team, but it's not exactly a shocker. So, but yeah, there's gonna be some narrative circling the Lakers, but it's hard to know. It's one of those things where after the game, people are gonna take the result and use it to explain why it happened. Just generally how the narratives work. Okay, so we got 3 minutes left. So I mean, it seems like the optimal lineup today, you just pick Chris Paul and 3 Suns, and then Anthony Davis and 3 Lakers, and then you call it a day. What do you say?
Yeah, pretty much. We did just get Nick Claxton downgraded to questionable, so there is the potential that we're going to get a little bit of value in Brooklyn. I don't know what the starting lineup would look like if Claxton is out. I don't know what it's going to look like if Claxton is in. But you do have a $3,400 DeRozan Sharp that potentially is just more unnecessary value at the center position.
All right, so yeah, if Claxton's out, we should get the starting line. Is that a 7 p.m. game? Anyway,
7:30.
7:30. Oh, that's tough because you could find out right at lock whether Claxton's in or not. So okay, DeRozan Sharp is you think he's going to get the start, and then
I have no idea. They could start Simmons at the 5. I think Sharp would play more if Claxton is out, but this team just has a bunch of interchangeable pieces that I don't know exactly what they would do.
That is going to be pretty interesting. So, how are you going to play this if we don't have any news in addition to Claxton being questionable at lock? Are you going to bump any Brooklyn guys in your lineups?
No, because I don't think Claxton's really going to impact much outside of potentially getting DeRozan Sharp as value. And there's only one game starting before this one. It's also not the Phoenix game or the Lakers, so you're probably not going to have that much exposure to it. You'll have Jokic, you'll have maybe some Suggs, maybe some other Denver guys, but Claxton doesn't have a big enough impact on his teammates for me to want to really be holding spots there.
That makes sense. One feature that I kind of like in situations like this is the thumbs up button on Fantasy Crunchers. So you could thumbs up Ben Simmons because more rebounding opportunities potentially if he starts at center. Just then you don't have to be late swapping a ton if Claxton's ruled out. And if he's ruled in, then he's still a guy that's not in a bad spot. So that's one of the things I'll do in these kind of situations. All right, guys, we got a full hour and a half leading up to lock here following this show. Just a reminder, MGM deal, the $1,000 free bet plus 1 month of Stokastic pluses in the description. We got Sorare. You can get a lot of information about Sorare on our website with our projections, our primer, and then make sure to use our promo so you can get that free card after 5 purchases. And stay tuned. We got Eric and Greg taking you all the way up to lock right after this. So in the meantime, if you can give us a thumbs up, we appreciate it, and stay tuned.
Yo, it's that time of week again. We're back to induct you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here at Stokastic.com and give out some Stokastic Plus Platinum memberships, $120 value. All you need to do to get involved, get yourself up here, get the free month, is go to Stokastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, use it wherever you play. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF on Twitter, at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and I'll induct you right here every single week. And we got some great ones today, kicking it off with Mike Jasbeck. Yet another reason why Stokastic DFS is the best of the best. Tools are second to none. They provide absolute best content out there. Shout out to all the guys who do the live shows. Keep the amazing content coming, fellas, and thanks for all you do. $20,000 win, second place in the Thursday NBA shot. Great way to kick this one off. But also, how about Avi? Avi's always hanging out with us, been kind and generous with his super chats over the years. We appreciate you. I know who you are, man. Thanks for the tips. Biggest win of my life, $20,000. Another second place in the NBA shot. And then you got our boy Greg Ehrenberg going back to back. Spent most of the night complaining about DFS slate, turned the games off to go to bed, woke up to find the slate actually wasn't bad. $5,000. How about that? First place in the NBA shot. And then Greg Ehrenberg again. The people who thought I could only win with 600 lineups are in shambles. I came in first in a 20 max entry contest last night with only 40 lineups. What are the haters going to say this time? Shout out to our boy Greg. You'll see him right after this on Live Before Lock. And then Smitty, 1,850, a very simple man at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Nice win there, man. Matt Fukuda at Stokastic actually ran good tonight. Thanks, Greg and Neil and the entire Stokastic crew. $1,600 win over there on DraftKings. Shout out to you, Matt. And also to Zachary Williamson. Stat correction placed me above a 7-man train. $500 swing. Took second place in the end one. That's huge. Followed up by Kenny Herron. Shout out to the entire Stokastic team, but especially Josh Ingeman. Josh getting the personalized shout out for the process show. Yep, 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. And Greg killing it every day on Live Before Lock. Give me that free month. You got it, brother. First place in the hot shot, $750. And then how about we've got Jim McCorkle. I love the tools and the shows. I'm really starting to see the results. Almost got to the top of the mountain. It's been a while. Thanks to Stokastic. Hey, still enough to get you in the door. 252nd in the NHL hip check. Followed up by Pete Prado. Holy crap, on the first day I purchased and used the lineup generator. You guys rock. So $30 win here, but guess what? $120 subscription. Free. And inducted in the Hall of Fame for Pete here. Four times what he just made on that. But look at it. Lineup generator, first day. Throws some entries into the quarter jukebox and takes down first place. Great stuff, Pete. And Pedro, I love seeing this. The NBA Bet Pro tools, brand new. The first week is entirely free. Pedro says, thanks to Stokastic. Hit this parlay last night. Best tool in the game is NBA Bet Pro. 51 in the 720, 4-leg parlay. And then Pedro hits us with another one. NBA Bet Pro on point. Thanks to Stokastic. $10 into $1,600 parlay. What are we looking at? 7 legs in that one? Yeah. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. And we close it with the professor. Trust the projections. Thanks to the team. Solid win during a little fantasy slump. This dude just went on an absolute tear with the parlays. Shout out to the professor and everybody else. Welcome to the Stokastic Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted. Collect your free subscriptions for the month. And remember, download the Stokastic avatar. It's stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF, and we're rocking.
Definitely Hufflepuff, though.
You were 100% off. Dude,
yeah,
bro, Hufflepuff.
What house are you in that game?
Everybody picks Gryffindor. Stop it.
Yeah.
You either pick Slytherin or Gryffindor. Ravenclaw's like for doctors and shit, and then Hufflepuff is for Jordan Kleins.
Ravenclaw's for NPCs, I feel like.
That's true.
Yo, what is happening, everybody, and welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show. And today was the NBA trade deadline. That has passed, so we know where teams are now and created some new kind of fun scenarios. The teams today, way different looking in the landscape of the NBA compared to yesterday. And we've got some NBA DFS to talk about, and some of the fallout of those trades is definitely going to be impacting today's slate. So as you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and shout out to Sorare, who is sponsoring our show today. We're going to be talking about them throughout the show, and in the post-lock show, we're going to be building out some Sorare lineups. Only 4 games today, so it should be a little bit more relaxed than usual as far as the news goes, although we did just get some news not too long ago that Nick Claxton is going to be questionable to play. But Eric, you did not get traded for any second-round picks. You're still on the program today. How's everything going?
I'm doing well. Where would I get traded to is the question. Would I be sent to Charlotte? Where would I go?
DK Live.
Oh, it's not great. Yeah, shout out to Sorare for also avoiding this unbelievable slate. We'll be able to talk about tomorrow, which is going to be far more fascinating. I started my research this afternoon. Way ahead of time, and we have 11 games for tomorrow. Lots of moving pieces. There isn't a single line out for that one yet, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk Sorare for that. Don't forget to get the daily drop too. I always, it's one of those things that's like become a part of my morning ritual just to like accumulate some of the common cards. So like just get in the habit of going over there. And I ended up getting a Torrey Craig, which I thought was interesting for today, but the Suns do play tomorrow. And he's only like 16 over on Sorare. So I thought that was actually a pretty good stag for just a daily card.
Yeah. And super. I think I might have a Torrey Craig as well. And we're going to be building out some of our lineups in the post-lock show. But also, if you guys haven't signed up at Sorare yet, sign up using our link below. Because when you make 5 limited card purchases, you're going to get 1 card for free. And that's an offer you're not going to find anywhere else. It's going to help you build out your collection. And I don't know if you saw this, Eric, but did you see what the 1-of-1 Giannis sold for the other day?
Yeah. 187K.
Yeah, so those are the kind of prizes you could potentially win in some of the Sorare contests, like a 1-of-1 Giannis, which did end up selling for $187,000. But we are into the NBA slate for today. We'll talk more about Sorare later, and already we have a super chat, and then we'll start talking about some of the injury news that has come in throughout the day. Race Fan 22, he wants to know Middleton, Bogdanovich, or Collins on DK. He needs one of these fellas.
Not Collins.
Was your answer Collins, or was that a question?
No, I said not Collins.
Oh, okay.
Anybody?
Like he's about to get traded every single trade deadline, and then
he doesn't. It's the ultimate teaser, like the ultimate, what? Like it's not fun, and he's not very good at basketball. And now he's just going to continue to be there, continue to be insignificant. I also thought Jalen Johnson in limited minutes looked pretty comparable. So like I'm a little surprised, but it just must tell you what everybody else thinks about John Collins. Just like today, we learned what everybody thought of Bones Highland. What a world.
Yeah, and Bones Highland, who's clearly, by the way, he's also been terrible this year. And it's kind of hard to know, like, because he's fallen out of favor with the Denver Nuggets. And we knew that, too, because, like, everybody was out the other day, and he wasn't even in the rotation. but he's fallen out of favor with the coaching staff. He's been absolute dog shit from a real life perspective when he's been on the court. But it's like, how much of it is he's played poorly and he's lost minutes, and how much of it is because they don't like him, that he's played poorly? I think the two things are probably correlated. But either way, he's in a new spot now. John Wall, I'm sure he was thrilled to be traded back to Houston, who is going to be letting him go, which was also part of the of Bones Highland going to the Clippers, and the Clippers need to free up a roster spot. But as far as the question goes, you said not John Collins. And then the other two options we have are Bogdanovich and Middleton. To be honest, I don't really like either of them, though.
Yeah, I think Middleton's at least playable. Eventually, you're going to get that game where the minutes get ramped up. What do we have him for today? 23 and a half minutes. Eventually, you're going to find him running into 24, 25 minutes. And if this is the spot in the highest total game on the slate at 236, facing a Lakers team that plays zero defense, that's not the worst spot. So, yeah, it's weird to say Middleton out of those groupings, but like, don't play any of those three.
Yeah, that's where I feel as well, is don't play any of them. So I think a lot of people are probably going to know how I usually answer this question when I don't really like any of them or it's a tie. Tie goes to the latest starter, and that tonight is Chris Middleton, because we do have some news that is probably going to end up impacting the slate depending how it breaks here. But we have in the Nets Bulls game, which locks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. There's only one game with a 7 p.m. Eastern time start. And in the 7:30 p.m. Eastern time starts, we have DeMar DeRozan is questionable. And then most recently, Nick Claxton is questionable to play. So with that being the scenario, I think you just want to get the latest guy, give yourself the most flexibility possible to get into your lineup. So that's where I'm going to go with Middleton, but not somebody I'm going to recommend you play today. Just use him as the roster spot for now to give yourself more flexibility.
Hold up. People are saying Chris Middleton's like terrible now. He's been hurt forever. He still has a positive estimated plus minus. His estimated win share is pretty neutral, but like that's what's going to happen for a dude playing 22 minutes who currently is still getting up to snuff. He's got an effective field goal percentage of 47%. That's inexplicably bad, but 91% assist rate. Everything still across the board looks pretty decent for him. Eventually, he's going to start playing more minutes, and he's just going to play better and better. It reminds me of Klay Thompson from last season, but like on a slate like today, I just don't see how I land on Chris Middleton in a million years.
Yeah. So, by the way, whether Middleton is, terrible, I disagree. I don't think he's bad, but from a DFS standpoint, there's just not enough minutes there. He played 22 minutes last game. That's the most he's played. Let's see, 22 minutes. How long has it been since Middleton had played 22 minutes in a game, which he got up to last game?
Forever. Probably till last year, if I had to guess.
The last time he played more than 22 minutes in the game was December 13th against the Warriors.
There you go. Fun times.
And even in that game, he played 29 minutes. It's just really hard to think he's going to play extended minutes. And this does look like a slate where we're going to end up seeing a bunch of additional value open up. Because like I said, we've got Nick Claxton questionable. We've got DeMar DeRozan questionable.
Sure do.
And then in addition, we've already got, Jamal Murray has been ruled out, and then LeBron James also out. But I want to know, what are you making of Nick Claxton and DeMar DeRozan being questionable? They're in the same game. Is it going to impact how you are approaching the first game of the slate?
Yeah. I mean, I want to have some kind of a spot. It shouldn't be that hard. We have a billion pieces from Phoenix, a billion pieces from the Lakers that all look appealing. We have value all over the place. We could get Nick Claxton ruled out here over the course of the next 75 minutes. Like, it just makes all the sense in all the land to have a plan in place where you just have a ton of those teams, and then you don't have to think about it. Like, when we're talking about this first game of the slate, like Nikola Jokic, smash. That's not going to change anything. You want exposure. Aaron Gordon, decent enough. Paulo Banchero, decent enough for me. Michael Porter Jr., decent enough. Like, there's just guys that you're going to naturally get to that make sense. Jalen Suggs, now that he's starting, definitely makes sense as well as another piece of value at 3,500. But I feel as though the next, 30 minutes or so, if we don't get news about it ahead of time, I definitely think I want to get to a little bit more of Vooch and Levine just by default, because where else do you get different on this slate?
Yeah, it's hard. Because like you said, unless you're just going to be taking some, crazier shots on either super low owned plays, or the other thing you could potentially do is go game stack, which for today, the other thing I want to ask about it, because we do have so much value in some particular spots because of the way the trade deadline goes. And the two teams that stand out the most, obviously, the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Suns, because they are super shorthanded. Devin Booker is resting. And then in addition to that, we've got no more Cam Johnson there. And then also Mikal Bridges not there because he was part of the trade. So they're really shorthanded. There's a lot of value there. And the Lakers' value is because of LeBron James being ruled out. So what are you going to be doing with max amount of players from teams? Because I do think this is a slate where you can make some game stacks that are projected to score fairly well. And there would be a lot of correlation should there be, an overtime or a shootout.
My first build before we got on the show had 5 Suns. Now that's changed over the course. Like that was right before 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific. I thought it was more than viable to play Lee, Okogie, Craig, Wainwright, Chris Paul, like to have everybody put together there. But then like on the Atlanta side, you're kind of forcing in a piece or two to make something like that work. And I just was still landing on Jokic and Giannis like everybody else. Now, Anthony Davis goes to the top of the board now as well. You need to find ways to get to him. Phoenix is going to be popular, but like now we get other pieces of value. And in the event that you get DeRozan Sharp starting instead of Nick Claxton at 3,400, he'd probably be the guy that I wanted to just jam the most because he's the one person not pulling ownership out of anybody right now. And again, I'm just looking at any path to get different, but like, I think it's pretty clear cut that, when you talk about the game stacks, Phoenix makes the most sense, but like, other than Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, is there anybody you would even want to take a shot with from Atlanta? Because like, I don't have a single other player from that team in my player pool today.
Let's see. I think that Clint Capella in large field tournaments would be somebody to consider. He's fairly cheap. And the other thing too is there's no ownership on Clint Capella. And I know the minutes haven't been there in a significant way as of late, but I also think there's wiggle room for those minutes to go up because some of the games lately haven't been competitive. The game against the Pelicans wasn't necessarily close all the way through. And we also saw the Hawks trailing, so they needed to get more 3-point shooting on the court. The game before that against Denver, they lost by 20 points. So that was one of the reasons he played 26 minutes. But I do think a super low on Clint Capella has merits as part of the game stack.
Just as long as Okongwu was there, I still want cheaper than 5,900. And now look at the center position. Like you get Ayton, Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic. I mean, there are some massive plays. And then we could get DeRozan Sharp, which would, again, be a guy that would just ascend to the very top of the board for me. Jock Landale makes some sense as well. Flat 3K for him. Vooch, if you have no DeMar DeRozan. I mean, there's just so many good center plays. Clint Capella in the mid-range doesn't make a ton of sense. But again, if he's going to be 3% like we're currently projecting, I think that's a good shout out.
And once again, it was only as part of a game stack, right?
Correct,
I'm not really saying him as any kind of a one-off play. It's just in the nature of how do we find upside and be a little bit contrarian per your reference before. I think that he is somebody who would make sense in that kind of game stack sort of scenario. And I want to go through some of the ownership too, because you did mention how concentrated a lot of it is. We have a lot of guys that are picking up a lot of ownership for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's very obvious chalk today, and it's only a 4-game slate, which is going to make it, even more magnified. So we'll look at DraftKings and FanDuel individually. And if I'm not mistaken, we just got an ownership run that came through a couple minutes ago. So I think that good fresh look at that should help us right here to 2 minutes ago to really see some of the most rostered plays. So we'll start with DraftKings, go over the most rostered players, we'll react to them, and then we'll do it for FanDuel as well in this fresh ownership update. So these are the players projected for north of 40% ownership on DraftKings, Eric. We've got Damian Lee, the most popular, projected for right around 60% ownership. We've got Nikola Jokic as the most popular spend-up option, Dennis Schroeder. Then we got Anthony Davis as another spend-up option, Chris Paul, Lonnie Walker, Rui Hachimura, Giannis. This is how much value there is on this slate. It is 4 games. We have 3 expensive players. All of them are projected for north of 40% ownership. Giannis, Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic. So with that in mind, do you think that it's warranted that all 3 of these spend-up options are picking up as much ownership as they are?
Yep, because you can play Jokic, Giannis, and Davis in the same lineup, and it's not crazy because you have Leah Kogi. I have Craig in my main lineup with the 3 of them. So, like, you can still do a lot of things that you want to do because all of this value that exists at a flat 3K. I mean, this is just a slate that's unbelievable, and all you're really trying to do is just rotate through some of these pieces of value. I think Jalen Suggs is kind of the guy that, for me, as I've updated some stuff, I've just started to ascend up the board. I'm looking at positive leverage anywhere I can possibly find it. And again, that mid range is kind of where you're running into like a piece or two that if you can find a way to get on Ben Simmons or Michael Porter Jr. or one of these guys, Franz Wagner, another guy at 6,300, a lot of these guys, if you can find one path to get to one of those guys and get away from one of these studs, you might have a path to winning. And again, if you get Vooch, we just saw that ceiling last game, even a very difficult matchup against Cleveland. And you saw him just go completely berserk in a game. They didn't even score 90 points as a team. You could definitely find another path to get to him as a lower owned option. I think there's still other ceilings, but like when you have this much value, it would be foolish not to play a ton of those top three.
Yeah, and in terms of priorities for me, and by the way, I have a bunch of all three of them, kind of like you, and I am getting a little bit more of Giannis and of Anthony Davis on DraftKings. The reason being is kind of what I talked about before. I like to try to prioritize game stacks a little bit more on this slate than I would on other ones. And I just like that Anthony Davis and Giannis as being two top spend up options. They're in the same game going up against each other. I like the little bit of added correlation, but I actually am overweight to all three.
Nick Claxton rolled out.
All right. Let's hit on that because this is now going to take precedent over anything else we're talking about. But just because I want to make sure I don't leave the FanDuel folks hanging, these were the FanDuel ownership projections for the most popular players over there as well. So I want to make sure this gets shouted out and then we'll circle back on this later. But I read off the most popular players on DraftKings before. The most popular FanDuel options. Number one right now is Anthony Davis. He's 10-9 on FanDuel. And something else that's different about him on FanDuel compared to DraftKings, power forward and center eligibility, where he's only center on DK. So Anthony Davis, very easy to get to on FanDuel. He's the most popular player. Then the players in the 40% range are Dennis Schroeder, Damian Lee, and Rui Hachimura. And then in the upper 30% range, we have Josh Okogie and Chris Paul. And then in the mid 30% range, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Drew Holiday. So that rounds out the current most popular FanDuel options, which is going to change because Nick Claxton was just rolled out. Eric, DeRozan Sharp, we have to think he's looking pretty good here, no?
My God. 3,400. Now, there's no path where anybody besides DeRozan Sharp starts, right? Like, there's just no path. Like
they could go Ben Simmons. They could go.
That's what I was going to say. Ben Simmons at the 5 makes sense to me with this current iteration of the team. Like you just start your best dudes: Cameron Thomas, Spencer Dinwiddie, Royce O'Neal. I can't believe they still have Joe Harris on this basketball team. That's so wild to me. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Just to reiterate, I absolutely think DeRozan Sharp starts. I was just throwing out the only other person I could.
The only other possibility. Yeah, no, 98% sure that DeRozan Sharp is starting. So we're gonna do that. He's 3,400 on DK. My God, I think the only question you have about him as a piece is like, does he pull from Jokic, Davis, and Vooch? Because those are 3 of your highest ceilings, assuming that there's no DeRozan, of course. But Jokic and Davis, unequivocally, like the 2 highest priority pieces, not named Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you can play him at forward. But like those 2 are center only on DraftKings. Like, you know, on FanDuel, you just talked about it. Anthony Davis has the power forward eligibility.
So
but
Sharp.
Like, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but on DK, it's like you just kind of mix and match. But if you're playing one lineup, I still feel like Jokic and Davis would be the path that I go. But we shall see here as I update everything because he's going to project out so well too. This slate is just on absolute steroids.
So the reason it's going to be Sharp for me still over and I'm going to rerun lineups in a second, is because we were just talking about how the Nets don't really have other centers. Because that's what we're saying. Like the reason that we say like, all right, Sharp almost certainly is going to start is because the only other big men they really have that we could see giving center minutes to would be Ben Simmons in the starting lineup. The Nets are so devoid of big men, and Sharp's a really good pointsman and fantasy producer that I think he's live to play north of 30 minutes today. And if that happens, he would just be a necessity. So he's going to be my highest priority big man on both FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, I think what this does for me probably is it shoots Jokic and Giannis into another stratosphere, because it should be pretty easy to play Giannis at a forward spot. And like if you're on Fantasy Cruncher today, with how many good centers you now have, that it's just like impossible. Well, you have good position, you have value at every single position, but like unequivocally, center for me is just absurd because you have the 2 raw ceilings and you have the best value piece more than likely on the entire slate, which is saying something in DeRozan Sharp, all in the same spot. So like, I'm going to mix and match those 3 an absolute metric ton. Yeah, don't even really know what else to say. It's just it's such a smash for them. But like, yeah, it's just another spot where Giannis, because of the forward eligibility, is going to be my highest owned out of everybody more than likely now.
One start for DeRozan Sharp this year. He played 32.5 minutes and scored over 40 fantasy points.
He's good. He's good at getting fantasy points. So yes, I'm with you there.
And overall for the season, he's scoring well over a fantasy point per minute. So DeRozan Sharp's going to be my highest priority center. And here's what I believe the trickle-down effect of this is going to be, particularly on DraftKings. I'm really quickly rerunning some FanDuel lineups. And, you know, once again, because some of the players have multi-position eligibility on FanDuel, it's just, all right, DeRozan Sharp's a really good value play, but we could still play AD. We could still play Giannis. And Jokic does definitely take I was going to say Jokic doesn't have to take a haircut on FanDuel because you could play DeRozan Sharp as well at power forward.
As long as he doesn't go to your barber.
Oh, no. Nobody should do that. But on DraftKings, Giannis just becomes by far the best spend up option to me now in light of this news because now DeRozan Sharp is somebody who I think we want to have in the majority of our lineups. You could play DeRozan Sharp, one of Davis or Jokic, and then still play Giannis in the other spot. Like if you have Sharp in a lineup, it is nearly impossible to not have Giannis in that lineup as well.
Yep, agreed. He's going to be in basically everything I do today.
Hard to get away from him. So DeRozan Sharp is going to look really good. I'm going to be curious to see what some of his ownership looks like when that does update. Some super chats that have come in. Andy Millman, shout out to you. He gifted out 10 YouTube subscriptions out here. So we appreciate you very much. Thank you for all the support there, Andy. And then some other super chats that we have here. This one is from Michael McKinney. Who are the 5 must plays for FanDuel cash tonight? Well, one of them, DeRozan Sharp. I'm going to say Sharp. By the way, you could play Sharp,
Davis,
Giannis, and Giannis in the same lineup.
So
still on FanDuel.
Stupid.
You can't do that on DraftKings. You can do it on FanDuel.
I know. I'm gonna enter some stuff on FanDuel quick. Is everything filled or not?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Well, let me take a look.
I will.
I want to.
That
yeah,
as well.
There's a $15. It's still open. We're gonna jump in that.
There you go.
Jam some there.
Get them lineups in. So I would say those 4, and then as far as a value play goes, Damian Lee.
Yeah, Damian Lee too for FanDuel.
So that's what I think you should be building around there, Michael McKinney. DeRozan Sharp, spend up for studs, and then fill out some more value options.
My God, Rui Hachimura has small forward eligibility on FanDuel.
FanDuel just gave everybody every position today.
Oh, my dear sweet Jesus. What am I doing? Okay. Unregister.
It's almost like, do you remember I don't know if they still do it this way, but the preseason slates for FanDuel where you just play whoever you want. Everybody's like 5K or 10K or whatever the number was, where it's just like, here, enjoy DeRozan and good. All right. So that is something we don't have to adjust for. God forbid we got more value at this point. We don't need it. DeMar DeRozan, good, you're in. We don't need every single team to have infinite value. There could be one team without the infinite amount of value on
I will say, like, Vooch, DeRozan, Levine, like those 3, considering they project like 39, 40, like right in that range. If one of those guys, you can find a way, like now that he's in, it should keep everybody low. Like you would have had to really consider what to do with Levine and Vooch in terms of moving them up the board. I think because of the positionality, Levine would have been very interesting at 8,600. But like, I think that still makes him very interesting on this slate where like, he's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. Vooch 1.2, DeRozan 1.15. Like you should get to a smattering of these guys if you're playing a lot of lineups, just because like they're the only ones that have like the true ceiling. Like it's hard for me to imagine a scenario now without them in there where like I want to prioritize Michael Porter Jr. in the 6K range, or I want to prioritize some of these mid-range guys because of how stars and scrubsy this slate is. But like, they're the studs that if you can like intertwine them in a little bit more, like, I think that's a good path to be overweight to maybe all 3.
Yeah. It's also just not hard to do today.
That's what I'm saying is that they're going to come in so low owned and you're going to get no leverage going to like Jokic, Giannis, Davis. And I mean, I'm not saying don't play tons of them. I'm playing tons of them. So it is what it is. But I'm saying like, I think the path to getting different on this slate is just be looking at like Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, like guys who can put up 55, 60 for you and get away from maybe one of the studs in some of those lineups. Like I think That's really what you got to be doing to combine around all of this value.
And some more super chats coming in. And then I also want to ask, what do we make of the other players on the net? So something else to think about as we start to hit on some of these super chats. But Noah Levinson, 2 players to lock. I like this question. Creative way to build out some talking points here. Noah's asking 2 players to lock and then 2 players to 2x the field on in DraftKings tournaments. The 2 players
Giannis,
to lock, I'm going
lock.
DeRozan, Sharp, and Giannis.
Yep, those would be the 2. If you made me right now lock 2 players, at knowing all the information we do now, projection, everything else, I would almost like fight though, because like there's a part of me that would also say Anthony Davis at 10-2. But yeah, Giannis is unequivocally the first person to lock, and then one of the 3 centers, and yeah, DeRozan, Sharp, just because of I don't know though, because then like who's the other spend up that you go to? Like that's what I keep running into for an issue.
So here's why the answer is not Anthony Davis and DeRozan Sharp. That means you're getting none of Jokic.
No, you could then you'd get none of DeRozan Sharp, but it's like, I don't know.
No.
I think I'd be more inclined to lock one of Jokic or Davis as opposed to locking Sharp. Maybe we're just a little bit different on that, but I would take like the raw points of those 2, like some combination of the 2, but Giannis unequivocally number 1.
All right, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying Giannis and DeRozan Sharp as your locks.
No.
So something else also, the ownership is not done updating yet. It's going to be updated soon. It does make it a little hard to know exactly who we would 2x. But either way, for me, I'm going to say locks, Giannis and DeRozan Sharp. What are you going to give as your official locks here for him? Not saying you're locking these guys in, just per the question Noah's asked us.
Giannis and Davis.
Okay. And then 2 players to 2x the field on.
Well, it's so hard to 2x somebody who's projected for 40% or 50% like Nikola Jokic. So like it's impossible if Jokic is projected for 50.5% to 2x the field as the second part of that question. Like I would just have a ton of him, but mathematically not correct. I would also say, because of what's happened to his ownership, DeAndre Ayton.
It's just so many centers to play.
I know, it's a joke. And that's my biggest issue with DeRozan Sharp right now. It's just like, I didn't want a piece of value at center. I just wanted to spend up at center and move on with my life. And now DeRozan Sharp, if he only plays 24, 25 minutes, you are in a lot of trouble, because that's that raw point ceiling you're getting from Jokic and Davis and Vooch and Ayton. Like, it's a very, very difficult thing. I'm begging the Brooklyn Nets not to start him. That would be excellent.
Yeah, so the reason the other part of Noah's question is really hard to answer, and it's what you said before, is all of the other good plays are also like 30-40% owned. And they basically, if you're 2x in the field, they basically become locks in that kind of scenario. So I know this isn't exactly Noah's question here, but how about 2 players that are projected for sub 20% ownership do you think are worth being overweight to the field on? How about that?
Now we're having fun. I'm going to go pivot. I'm going to go to DeRozan and Levine. I'll back up my stance where it's like, I want
DeRozan's over 20%.
DeRozan is at 11.3 in our last run.
Let me refresh that.
On DK or FanDuel? DK.
Let me refresh. Oh, yeah, I was looking at the FanDuel ownership. So
that would be different. Yeah, DeRozan and Levine. I think just give me ceiling and positionality over all else on this slate with tons of value.
All right, sub 20% owned. So I want to take some shots on some of these low-owned Suns players, because how do we know for sure what some of the minutes are going to look like? And I know that Jordan has had intimate moments with Ish Wainwright.
Yeah.
I mean, Wainwright's projected for sub 20%. Who's to say he isn't somebody who picks up extended minutes here?
Sweet nothings, baby. Hey, Ish, baby.
People don't know about this, but Eric and Jordan went to a Clippers Suns game together, and they were sitting very close to the bench, and Jordan was feeding Ish Wainwright candy during the game.
God, my allergies are so bad today. But yeah, no, he was feeding him red vines. Red Vine Klein back in effect.
Ish Wainwright, and then Jalen Suggs is 9% owned.
Jalen Suggs, I don't know.
Yeah, don't do that.
What
Again.
this world's gonna
Those are
bring.
gonna be my two answers for the.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm with you.
Guys. The next one is from Cheyenne DeWald, and Cheyenne is asking guard on FanDuel under 4,400, who is not Damian Lee. Also, how do you guys feel about DeRozan Sharp if Claxton's out? Well, Claxton is now been confirmed out, so certainly like him a whole bunch as we've talked about. But then a guard on FanDuel under 4,400.
Over 3,400?
Under 4,400 on
4,400 on
under
FanDuel.
Under 4,400.
I
on
heard
FanDuel,
you.
not Damian Lee. Well, you keep asking. I hope you give an answer that's just
Oy
over
vey.
the price point now.
Lonnie Walker, this is your life. That'd be an all right one.
Looking through projections.
Oh my God.
44.
What is wrong with you as a person?
Jordan Klein is one of the better.
Here's the
producers
thing.
in the
People
game,
don't
named
understand. A
Jordan
lot of my job is revolved around slates that come up on the next day. And all I've done since I've woken up is look at 11 games coming up tomorrow because this slate is an atrocity. I don't like it. I'm not playing it heavy. I'm not betting enough on. I have 4 bets in play and I consider just doing nothing today. Who are best? EMAC, you're dead to me.
Josh
You're dead to
Okogie.
me.
Josh Okogie is going to be my answer for Cheyenne.
Okogie? That's an interesting. Isn't it Okogie?
It's however I want to say his name.
Josh Okogie. He played for the
Ben
Timberwolves. Don't do
Anthony.
this to me.
The Bucks are all in on Derrick Rose via buyout. Okay.
Cool. Don't
Is that
care.
true? Oh, that's very mean. He's supporting the show and left us a super chat. You don't care?
I'm very upset with EMAC is what it is. I'm honestly. And then Jordan Klein pulling it up live on stream, having to expose me to the world the way that my arms are exposed to the people. Like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? He was on American Idol, wasn't he?
EMAC? I don't think so. Was EMAC on American Idol?
Oh, I have no idea. Can we talk about Sorare? I want to talk about tomorrow's slate. I'm far more looking forward to that than this one.
Well, we've got a lot of super chats to answer.
Oh, fine.
Ace of Spade, Levine, or Ayton for DK tiers. Ayton. I think I would have, if it was not for the DeRozan Sharp thing, I would have loved to get to Ayton. He's just hard to get to now.
Can I time out EMAC? How do you do that?
He can't.
Can I block him?
No. He's got
immunity.
He's got the thing next to his name in chat that symbolizes that he's a tool, and you can't time those people out.
It's all right. So EMAC, next time you send me 3 paragraphs in my DMs, I'm not responding. I'm just throwing it out there ahead of time. I hope you know that when I get my next, oh, how great is my wife? She just cooked 4 meals for me and everything else. Know that you're dead to me. I just killed Jordan Klein. EMAC, you put me under a bus, baby. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fight, claw, and put you under there with me. Let's go. Come on, young man.
And if you keep going, EMAC, I'm going to put you on more shows. You're going to get more work and you'll be scheduled more. So keep it going. Keep it going. Choose your fighter. Ace of Spade, DK tiers, Levine or Ayton. I said Ayton. Yourself, Eric?
I'm doing choose your fighter.
Are you going to pick one of them then?
Ayton.
There we go. We're on the same page there. Let's see. Other super chats. This one is also from Ace of Spade. Ben Simmons, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon for DK tiers. Let's see.
EMAC, last time you asked me about a 3K bet promo, you bet the wrong thing and lost. So, like, literally, get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. You don't even take my advice when I'm right.
And you cost EMAC $3,000?
I did not.
Sounds like
EMAC cost EMAC $3,000.
Sounds like you cost EMAC all his money.
I was supposed to say the wrong thing so that he would put in the right bet. Oh, my bad. Missed the boat on that. Cool.
I think that's very just intentionally make EMAC lose $3,000.
Oh my God! Please just stop talking.
That is. Do you know how many movie tickets he could have gotten for the seniors discount at the movie theater with that much money? It's in. Well, I was going to say movie. I was going to say that's movies for the rest of his life, but that's only 2 weeks. So like I don't know, but either way, that was like a really it's a lot. Live
before afterlife.
I'm just saying that's not nice of you. Ace of Spades, Simmons, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. I prefer Aaron Gordon for DK tiers.
Aaron Gordon 2 for tiers. That sounds tears for fears.
And R Gravy, Ish Smith or Reeves on DK? Neither.
So the Ish Smith thing is weird. I think on FanDuel, I'm looking at some of our stuff for FanDuel today, and there's a part of me that wants to. I just don't know how you get there because of how insane automatic value is going to be. Like, do you really want to use lineup spots on Ish Smith when you know, well, one, Jalen Suggs is starting, so you could just play him in that first game. Two, everybody from Phoenix. It doesn't even matter if they start or not. Like, if Koji doesn't start, I'm still going to play him. God damn it. Oh, I called him a Koji. I hate you. I hate you for that. That is not
like anybody you work with.
No, not today. Everybody's made to be. Actually, they made it to be every day. Today, I'm just noticing it a lot more than most.
I think I've been meaner to Emac than to you, if we're being honest.
That's true.
The
Eric
next
is
super
the
chat.
Worst. Thanks, Stay Odd. You are useless.
The next super chat is from Cyber Real Estate. I just saw the dollar bill ad. When are we going to see the lady model ad for promotions?
What?
This is for you specifically, Eric. I want you to be nice and answer a super chat because you've been very mean to people who are leaving super chats so far. Cyber Real Estate wants to know, he just saw the dollar bill ad. When are we going to see the lady model ad for promotions?
Soon.
Very, very soon.
Very
Zach
soon.
F. Unequivocally is unequivocally not a word.
I don't care. I really, there is not a care whatsoever. I care about three things right now: my wife, my dog, and Sorare. That's
there
it.
we go. And
no.
And
that Jordan Klein gets, if he gets randomly assigned in a future afterlife, gets assigned to Hufflepuff. That's all I care about. He's an absolute Hufflepuff to the max. I've never specifically spent time with somebody that I knew the Sorting Hat would pick and make a Hufflepuff more than Jordan Klein. There's no way around it.
I feel like there's racial undertones to it, but it's okay. I'll let it pass a little bit. I mean, a little bit.
No, it does not.
A little
Hufflepuff,
racist to me.
the
A
magic
little racist,
dragon.
a little ageist. My filler arc. Can you recommend a guard under $8,700? I don't want Chris Paul and worried that Levine is a bad pick now with DeRozan. So he wants a guard under $8,700 on DraftKings. It can't be Chris Paul and it can't be Zach LaVine.
Drew Holiday. Duh. There you go. Move on. But he's way cheaper, but like, I don't care. That's just a dude at 7,700 that has a ceiling. He carries the same type of ceiling that you're going to get from a Zach LaVine, from everybody else. You get to these guys that are in this mid-range, the 7-8K range, because it's pretty easy to get overweight to them and pretty easy to see a path where they put up 50 and become like an extra piece that you need because of raw points.
Do you think Dinwiddie starts?
I do think Dinwiddie starts. I mean, we don't know yet, but I'd be very surprised if Dinwiddie didn't start. I know he didn't start for a lot of his Brooklyn career there. I mean, he was there for 5 years. So yeah, majority of it, he of course didn't start, but like, I do think he starts just because like best available. It'd be weird for them, to go Joe Harris and take Dinwiddie off the bench and play him very limited minutes. That'd be a little weird to me.
I'm going to go with you. Drew Holiday is the answer for me. He was somebody else who was priced there. So I thought it was worthwhile to bring up there.
Totally. And also Dinwiddie, I mean, when he was just putting up 50 burgers here recently without Luka Doncic, there was nobody on that basketball team. Absolutely nobody. And now you've got Jesus Christ, a.k.a. Cameron Thomas. You have Ben Simmons, a.k.a. the Devil. You have Royce O'Neal, Day'Ron Sharp, Dorian Finney-Smith, who he's buddies with, so that's cool. But like, otherwise, there's actual decent guys who are going to handle the ball a lot more than what he just dealt with Tim Hardaway Jr. Whoop-de-doo.
The next super chat, like I said, they are piling in.
Well,
and
fly.
Yeah. Jake Lindland has asked us for a DK single entry, Bruce Brown or hit the reset button. I like Bruce Brown.
I think Bruce Brown is interesting to get into that mid-range. Like, you got to be selective, but like, there's a very clear path where he could go nuts. He is your starting point guard today.
Frankie Lofton, DK single entries in the $40, five must-play players. So we could do it this way. Who are the 5 players that you have the most exposure to as of now? For me, that is Giannis, DeRozan Sharp, Dennis Schroeder, Anthony Davis, and Chris Paul.
It's the 3 studs along with now DeRozan Sharp, who I'm probably going to be trimming down a little bit, and Dennis Schroeder. Yeah, Damian Lee as well is up there. Sorry. There you go.
Not dissimilar. And then Jorge is asking us, our guy Jorge Giacomi.
My dude.
Where did that super chat go? There we go. The must 2 to 3 guys to have in a DK single entry large field GPP. That for me is Giannis, DeRozan Sharp, and Anthony Davis.
There you go.
Eric on the same page with me. And the next question here is from the Maharishi. First donation to pay EMAC the $3K that EMAC lost him. The first donation to pay EMAC the $3K that Eric lost him. It's confusing. People don't know this. You guys are actually both Eric.
We are both Eric. There are 2 Erics, but
so
one.
There we go.
One is now broken my heart, and the other
and
one
we're starting to go fund me to just get EMAC's money back that Eric lost for him. I like it.
Click the right button, EMAC. Want the over. Can't even remember what total it was. I just know it was an NFL total that I was like, this is absolutely going over. And it went over like with 2 minutes left. And I felt kind of like shit.
Yeah, it was very thoughtful of you, the Maharishi.
Justice for EMAC? That is no, Jordan.
Justice for EMAC. No, I agree with Jordan. I don't like what Eric is doing to EMAC. I don't like this Eric on Eric crime. And I'm on EMAC's side. He's going to be our future president. And if I'm just doing the power play, and I'm trying to think like long-term, who's better to side with from just like an overall personal standpoint, I'm going to go with my future president as opposed to just somebody who works underneath me on the organizational structure that I employ. So can
we go to Sorare? I want to talk Sorare for a couple minutes before we jump over to the last half hour.
Really quick before we do though,
okay.
I just want to shout out to people that if you want to take advantage of all the tools we have over at Stokastic.com right now, you can sign up for any package you want for 50% off when you sign up for the first time. And something that you guys could take advantage of, especially for somebody who's newer into DFS, it's our new lineup generator. This is going to be the easiest way to help you build out some of your lineups because we've got everything in there for you already. It's going to spit out lineups that we're expecting to be plus EV. We have a standalone lineup generator package that costs less than $10 a week, but it's also included as part of our NBA package. So if you guys are looking for tools, projections, ownership projections, all that, it's included in our NBA package. But also, if you just want the lineup generator, we've got a separate package for that for less than $10. And when you sign up for the first time using the link below, you're going to get 50% off on the first package you sign up for. So Sorare. We're going to be talking about this as well in the post-lock show. We're going to be building out some lineups over there and looking at our accounts. But Eric, you've been dying to talk about this.
I am, because it's awesome. I'm having a lot of fun. And obviously, I saw that card get sold for $187K the other day, and I was just like, my goodness, do I need to get into this a little bit more? And so I was doing some digging and starting with just like the common stuff. You have the common MVP. I found that to be the most fun because you pick a most valuable player, and then you still have 120 remaining points that you can put towards the cards. There's a corresponding point amount, and it's just a lot of fun to be playing and keep track of. Plus, I get a sweat for a couple days. It starts February 10th, goes through the 12th. So for me, I've got my brother that's in town visiting. And so like tomorrow night, we have some stuff that we have planned Saturday, Sunday. So it's like for me, with the Super Bowl on Sunday as well, I can set it and forget it tomorrow. So like, what a great opportunity to get exposure in a different way, in a different game. And plus, there's some major upside as you continue playing with these cards.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I have a Torrey Craig when we go build up. I never exactly know who it is that I have player cards of because I've got a bunch of them now that I've been collecting. We'll be going through them. And also, there's free cards you get every day. There's going to be a starter set you get when you guys sign up. But also, if you sign up using our link below, you are going to get one free limited card player after you make 5 limited card purchases. So that is a good way to also help build out your collection. Now, some questions we're getting in Discord for today's slate. And why did my phone just bug out? Here we go. This is our guy Lippy. Tell me about Ish Wainwright, also about Middleton and Broke Lopez. I think he means Brooke, but I kind of think it's funny. Actually, misspell and call him Broke Lopez. So Middleton is somebody I have a really hard time getting to in large field tournaments because of the minutes restriction. Broke Lopez, too many good center options. Ish Wainwright, I think he's a viable contrarian spend down option.
I concur with all the words you just said.
The next question we have is from, and now Lippy will just play some random guy, 100% his lineup, so we'll just smash. Jets World. Of both Landale and Sharp, who's the higher priority on DK? DeRozan
Sharp by a mile.
Big Dream $. Yuta is 6'9". Any love for him?
No.
I don't know if this was some sort of clever wordplay, but no, too much good value to get to.
Well, not only that, but look how many wings were just acquired by that basketball team. He plays the wrong position to be somebody who's interesting.
Yeah, I think what his point is that he thinks there's a chance that he plays center minutes, which I guess could be a case, but I'm not. It's not something I'm taking a chance on.
Yeah, I'm not gonna think about it. No.
The Maharishi, can you prioritize the Lakers for DraftKings? Absolutely. So the Lakers that I'm getting the most exposure to in order, one is Dennis Schroeder, two is Anthony. One is Anthony Davis, two is Dennis Schroeder, three is Rui Hachimura, four is Lonnie Walker, five is Troy Brown.
Sounds good to me.
Eric, with an enthusiastic stamp.
Sorry, I'm fixing something up here because
Ernie P35. What are your max players from each team? 4 for me.
4, yeah. Unless you're again, there was an opportunity to get to 5. 40 pieces of value like an hour and a half ago. That ship has sailed. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and I like you said, I considered it when I was building my initial lineups, but then ultimately when push came to shove, it just seemed unnecessary with the amount of value we got open from other spots. And I just didn't want to be too, I don't want to have 5 players from any one team today or 6 or whatever. It's just not needed with the amount of value we have in different spots. But 4 is still a lot, and I think that's good for today. Then Swaz wants to know, can we rank the big 3 spend ups on DK? For me, it is Giannis 1, Anthony Davis 2, and Jokic 3.
Giannis because of positionality by a mile 1. Jokic, Davis 2 because $800. Not that it matters. No, I have Jokic projected for more, and I'm going to get to more Jokic here as I finish everything up. So there you go. 1, 2, 3.
And yeah, it's for me. Giannis is the pretty easy one because he's the power forward eligibility on DK. And then for me, just Anthony Davis comes out ahead of Jokic. Like I was saying before, Giannis and Davis are playing in the same game against each other. I like that correlation, so I end up with them together a little bit more. Super chat from Mike L. FanDuel GPP, and this is a 3v3. Suggs, Giannis, Vooch versus Holiday, Thomas, and Jokic. By the way, I am not on. I don't know. I'm assuming they're talking about Cam Thomas. Because, let me see. How many Thomases are on the slate? Yeah, it's Cam Thomas, he means. I am off of Cam Thomas today. I know he's been ridiculous as of late, but I think the price is caught up to him.
Well, also, if we assume what that starting lineup's going to be, you and I both think Dinwiddie starts. Mm-hmm. That is going to hinder his upside. It just is. Dinwiddie repeatedly over 30% usage there without Luka Doncic. So if you just kind of 1-for-1 put him there as opposed to whomever else, it's just. It's like playing next to not Kyrie, but like poor man's Kyrie there in Spencer and Dinwiddie. So like Cameron Thomas is going to lose usage, and now he's at a high point, and I think there's artificial ownership that's going to go to him. We have him at 9%. I think that's too high.
I have a nickname for Dinwiddie that's not going to pick up, but I like it. He's crypto Kyrie.
Wow,
that's what he is. But It's very accurate. I don't know enough people get the references, but. Because he's also in his own conspiracies and stuff and whatnot, but he's more of a crypto guy.
Got it.
He actually, if I'm not mistaken, he actually takes like half his salary in crypto.
Yeah, I remember something like that. So
it's probably gone very poorly for him.
No, it's not been a good run for him. That's for damn sure.
He also, remember he tried to sell part of his contract?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Crypto
Oopsie.
Kyrie. Spencer Dinwiddie.
I kind of like it. That's an all right one by me.
Did we get another super chat? We had the one from Mike L. And then here, Corey Shea, Levine or Holiday, large field GPP. I have more Holiday.
Yes, same.
The next super chat. Did we hit on all of them now? I think we've got all of them in front of us. The Discord channel, we've got Ernie P saying, what is the min salary on DK? Do you mean who's the cheapest player I'm rostering,
Yeah, those are
or
two
what is
different
the
things.
least amount of money that I'm using in any one lineup? In terms of the cheapest guy that I'm playing on DraftKings, I mean, like a meaningful amount. Well, I mean, Okogie, I've got a bunch of, he's the flat min. So I've got minimum salary players in there. What is the most amount of salary you're willing to leave on the table today? I have some lineups leaving a shit ton of salary on the table, actually.
Yeah, let me organize this quick.
I've got lineups that are leaving like $900 of salary on the table.
Yeah, which for NBA is a ton. I have some that have 600 on the table. That's as far down as mine go.
And the other thing too is it's just because I have guys that are, like a DeRozan Sharp at $3,400 who projects better than the guys who are like $700-800 more expensive than him. So I have lineups that are leaving much more salary on the table today than I normally would, and hopefully that could differentiate me playing some of these really chalky players.
Yep, agreed.
Lippy, thoughts on Troy Brown? Troy Brown is in 20% of my lineups.
He's in just short of that for me.
Yeah,
I just
like
looked
Troy
at
Brown.
that. Yeah. Again, like is relative. There are just guys you're rotating a lot of this value around, and you hope you run into the right combination. Good luck to us all. I mean, I'm kind of cheering against Ish Wainwright is kind of what I've realized in my lineups here.
The next question, I think we're caught up on them. Are you good with your lineups right now?
1 second, and I will be. There we are, and upload. That was just a lot of fun here. It's weird because like there's too much value, and I don't know if we've said that yet this season.
So let's do something a little bit. So we got a couple minutes to go until lock here. And I want to know, first, for DraftKings purposes, who is the player that you are most nervous that you don't have enough exposure to?
DeRozan Sharp.
It is Jokic for me. And once again, I still ended up getting to a bunch of Jokic, but I ended up coming in underweight to the field in my final build. I thought I was going to be overweight to him. Didn't end up being the case. Prioritizing getting to Giannis and Davis. And for obvious reasons, it is scary as hell to have not as much Jokic as other guys.
For me, the whole reason I'm saying that is like I still have 25% DeRozan Sharp, but I have a feeling that's going to be well below the field when we get to the end of it here. If he's starting, he's at 35% in our ownership projections now. I expect it to go up. And as a result, what's going to happen to me is my ownership to him is going to go down. So I am not looking forward to that one. Not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah. So refresh our ownership because he is at 45% on DraftKings.
There you go. See.
And 67% on FanDuel.
Oh, shit. So I got to do one more run now. This is going to be fun. Let's play a game called Let's Make Lineups in 2 minutes.
All right, here we go. Do. Eric makes lineups in 2 minutes and then loses Emax money. Here we go. This is going to be...
Oh, man, blasphemy. Erroneous, I tell you. Erroneous on all accounts.
Not what I heard. And like I said, I'm backing Emac in this argument.
Emac can go shove it. Thanks for the Simon Cowell tweet. Didn't expect that one today, but here we are.
We have Lippy saying, fading Jokic, pray for me. Fading him's a little bit aggressive. I ended up a little bit underweight to the field. Fade is not exactly where I ended up going.
Fade is not the right way to go about living your life today.
Miami High Life is having Jokic, AD, and Giannis in your lineup a chalky lineup. Yes, but it's kind of hard to not have chalky lineups today.
Correct.
It's a 4-game slate, and a lot of the value is obvious. Like if you don't have a chalky lineup today, it means like, who are you taking shots on? Like you could take shots on Dinwiddie and differentiate a lineup.
Mm-hmm.
You could take a shot on Michael Porter Jr. and differentiate a lineup. But if in general, like you're going to have some chalky guys in your lineup. Say it's inevitable.
Yep. And I'm that's where the Levine and the DeRozan thing, like those are 2 guys that I'm just going to be over the field to. And I'm doing it because they're the ones that carry the ceiling that can maybe surpass one of them and kind of intertwine into other lineups and just be that differentiating piece.
And by the way, the reason that 4-game slates are so much different than a bigger slate, DeRozan is still 16% on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's right around 30%. So you certainly couldn't call him contrarian on FanDuel, but DraftKings, he relatively is, but he's still 16% owned. It's just hard to find guys that have actual upside that are going to be like 5% owned on this kind of slate.
Correct. Kind of fun now. I was not having fun before. And now I'm having more fun building lineups.
Super chat here from my Phil Arc. I seem to always see one Magic player in the winning lineup. Which Magic player will it be today?
Markelle Fultz.
Fultz is the one I have the most exposure to, so I'm going to hope him. Most likely, the answer is none of them.
More than likely, none of them. I hope it's Fultz.
If it had to be one, it would be Fultz. Do you have exposure to any other Magic players?
Yeah, Franz Wagner. Boom
Like
Bust liked him.
Significant amount though.
8%.
Okay,
That's significant compared to what I expect a lot of those guys to be today. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, Franz Wagner, we have projected for 5% ownership on DraftKings and over on FanDuel. Franz is actually projected for 15% ownership. And once again, ownership projections, part of our NBA package. And if you guys are signing up for the first time, use the link below to get 50% off the package you sign up for there. And we are heading into lock and just making sure that we didn't miss any super chats coming in last second, which we did not, but we're not going to be going anywhere for the next 30 minutes. Eric and I are going to be pulling up Sorare, building some of those lineups. If anything changed in terms of breaking news, we just got the Bulls starting lineup that I'm about to read off. Ayo Dosunmu, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Nikola Vucevic. Nothing surprising there. That is the normal starting five. And anything that changes, anything that comes up about that was totally unexpected player rolled out, we are going to be hitting on that in the next 30 minutes while also building out some Sorare lineups. So, Jordan, if you would do me the pleasure, can you share the screen and pull up my Sorare account so we could build up some lineups? And also put it on, if you could put it on the Zoom screen as well so we could see it. Oh, good man.
So rare is everywhere.
He could do more than just play Harry Potter, Jordan. He could also share screens. Do I have any rewards to claim?
Expecto Patronum.
Oh no, because I forgot the slate isn't over yet. We still have the final day in the slate. Never mind. I thought we were going to be able to do that. So let's open up the common champion contest and we'll build out a lineup here using some of the cards I have. And just for starters, also, I want to see who some of the Suns guys I have are, because I haven't looked for them at all in recent days, right? Like I haven't looked for Suns players, like why would I for the last couple of weeks? But I'm pretty sure that I have Torrey Craig. And you can search his name up top in the search bar. Torrey Craig. Fuck. Thought I had him.
I do. Wrong. 18, baby. Him and Zach Collins going to be my absolute dudes over the weekend. How you feeling about Zach Collins, absent Jakob Poeltl, getting shipped off back to Toronto?
Pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good is the answer, and I have a lot of Zach Collins.
I don't have Collins. I do have Keita Bates-Diop though.
I like Keita Bates-Diop. He's another guy that I got quite a bit of. But yeah, Collins is at 20 now, and Bates-Diop is at 19. I have quite a bit of both of those.
Nets starting lineup, and nothing unexpected here. Dinwiddie, Thomas, Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Day'Ron Sharpe. So we do have confirmation that Day'Ron Sharpe is in the starting lineup. We've got Cam Thomas in there. We've got Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie. Any quick reactions to this Nets starting five?
Yeah, I mean, just no Ben Simmons. That's a big deal.
What do you think his role is going to be going forward now?
See, I think he's going to be the backup center then in this kind of a scenario. Like, he's going to come off the bench. I don't feel great. Like, Watanabe's probably still in the rotation, so I'm not going to freak out about that. But, like, I'm pretty sure Ben Simmons plays backup five.
I wonder if Ben Simmons ends up falling out of the rotation.
Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to have 0% of him. I had 4% before. I'm just not going to play him today.
Yeah,
not today.
I would. And even if it's not today, would you be utterly stunned if we end up finding out the Nets rotation the next couple of weeks when we've got all these other wings? Because they've got a million wings. This team has got like 2 guards, 2 big men, and then 15 wings. That's the
well. Not only that, but like I'm pretty positive Bridges and Johnson are going to be starting right off the bat. So Royce O'Neal probably playing the 2. Whereas today he's basically playing 3/4, depending on how you look at him and Finney-Smith. I mean, overall, I think the Nets came out pretty good considering you gave up Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and the team you're putting together is not apocalyptic. And come playoff time, we've seen it. What?
Clarence Johnson, Tupac would still be alive if Ben Simmons was the shooter. But also, I mean, getting to that, I think it's very realistic. It might not be today, but I think moving forward, Simmons is very live to fall out of the rotation once they get. If he's not starting now, that means there are so many guys ahead of him in the rotation when we get Cam Johnson and we get Mikal Bridges there.
See, I'd be shocked if he like fell out of the rotation. I just think he's going to be an 18 to 20 a minute a game guy now. Like I think he'll be a backup. So like this game, I'm pretty positive he sees the floor here just because you don't have Bridges and Johnson there. But even still, I think he's a guy that just for defensive purposes, you can bring out on the floor and do some different things with. He can guard 5 positions. That's never been a question. But like you are no longer forced into a situation if you're the Nets to have to like close with him. You don't have to any longer deal with the last 2 minutes of a game and be like, yeah, Ben Simmons matters there in that kind of regard. But like, I think he's still a luxury to have. And considering he's under contract, maybe you find a suitor for him in the offseason, but like, there's no reason not to play him because I still think in very limited capacities, he can still be a difference maker on a winning basketball team. And for all intents and purposes, this is a team that I know the East is phenomenal, but they're 33-22. And there are some ways that if you get Bridges and Johnson to play well for this team, Dorian Finney-Smith has always been a good role player. He kind of falls into that Royce O'Neal vein when he was with Utah and then DFS with Dallas. I think having enough, like having this many wings, if you can get Cameron Thomas to keep scoring and Dinwiddie can kind of recapture his Brooklyn stuff towards the end of his tail run there, 2020, 2021, you could have a decent enough basketball team. I'm not saying they're going to contend. They're not, but like you've got some pieces and some things in the offseason that you can move around to maybe turn into a superstar.
I think Ben Simmons has just negative value at this point. I don't see Ben Simmons turning into a superstar.
I didn't talk about Ben Simmons, not at all.
Oh, I thought you were saying him as part of a trade.
Fuck no, absolutely not. No.
But now that he isn't starting, does this change the way you're viewing any other players from the Nets for tonight?
I feel like Spencer Dinwiddie, I want to give a little bit of a boost to. He's 8,100 and pulling 0 beyond 0 ownership. He's sub 2%. And like, for me, that's the intriguing part is like, we don't know what those minutes look like, but there's no way that a guy with the kind of ceiling Dinwiddie can have, who's going to be sub 2%, isn't somebody that's going to have a higher optimal percentage. Let me pull up the green bus tool again. He is nearly 5% in terms of optimal percentage. So like 1 in 20. Again, that's optimal. There's ceiling game potential there in a way where he has a ceiling game and maybe works out. Like you're going to need something close to an optimal, I would think today, like more than most days because of how insane the value is. Multiple of those pieces are going to pop. And then like Dinwiddie would still have to outperform Drew Holiday, Chris Paul, a lot of guys in the 7-8K range. But like, if he just goes out unencumbered and plays 33, 34 minutes even, there's 55 on the table, just depending on how him and Cameron Thomas work together. Like I'm pretty positive Cameron Thomas pulls more ownership, and I think that's kind of incorrect.
You want a bet I placed earlier? Let me see if it's still available. It's a Spencer Dinwiddie bet.
Okay.
Let me see if it's still up. I might as well say what it is while I'm looking. I bet him for over 28.5 points plus rebounds plus assist.
I love that.
Crazy low to me at open.
That's really good. Why did I not see that? I suck.
Let me see if it's still there. It was in my NBA betting video today. I bet it this morning. It was so also something else. It was 29.5 on FanDuel and juice towards the over. And it was 28.5 on DraftKings this morning, juice towards the under. What is it now? Player combos. And there are no props up for the Nets right now.
There's like nothing up for tomorrow, period, and today and nothing. It's just an ugly 2 days of basketball coverage. It just is, but it's going to be a lot of fun still just because like we're going to see new situations. And I mean, books, understandably, they're afraid of hanging up stale numbers. Like they just don't want to get completely obliterated because there's people like you, people like me that'll just find it and alert a lot of people. But like pretty positive that 28.5 over on Spencer Dinwiddie, that's like a smash.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's gone now, but it was up earlier.
I never saw it.
Video, so
that would be awesome.
Yeah, but there's also like FanDuel doesn't have any props for some reason. The only player they have props up for right now, I just looked up, was Ayo Dosunmu. Like everybody else they left down, but they're like Ayo needs to have props for today.
That's absurd.
let's go back to Sorare. We got a little bit sidetracked because the Nets starting lineup came out without Ben Simmons. That ended up being important.
Makes sense. Understandably sidetracked, if you will.
So click on Kedabate's job, though, Jordan. And I'm pretty sure as we add in more players, we're going to end up seeing him move out of the MVP spot there. But now here's some of the high price players I have, Eric. And we know we get the MVP spot. So the guy we put in the 1.5x spot isn't going to count against our salary cap. Of these guys, who do you think I should be playing in the 1.5x? We've got LeBron, we've got Jokic, we've got Giannis. To be honest, I wouldn't really consider any of the other guys. Like as much as I love SGA, Garland, some of these other players, for players in the 1.5x spot, I think it should. The MVP spot that isn't going to count against our salary. I think it should be LeBron, Jokic, or Giannis. Do you have a preference amongst those three?
Yeah, so Giannis is going to play on Friday here. I do think there's an outside chance that maybe he sits going into, what is it? Monday. So this is running through the 12th, right? So Friday is who do they play? Because I thought they were on a back-to-back for tomorrow. They don't have the LA back-to-back. Yeah, they do have the LA back-to-back. Yeah, they're playing the Clippers tomorrow. There's an outside chance Giannis sits. So I'm probably inclined to get away from him because otherwise you're taking a 0. There's only 2 NBA games. 2 on Sunday. You have Boston and Memphis. You have Detroit, Toronto. I'm far more inclined. LeBron didn't play today. Pretty positive LeBron is playing basketball over the weekend. Feel pretty confident that he would be my favorite of the grouping, barring let's see. Jokic has, let me see.
Click on LeBron, put LeBron and Jokic in. I think we might be able to fit both.
You should be able to fit both, is what I'm saying. But I'm trying to decide who I want to MVP between the two.
Yeah, there we go. So, you just.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't matter. You just play both of them.
Yeah. Then it just automatically whoever's the higher priced player, which is LeBron. There. Let me make this bigger. So my old eyes. So 44. So we got 22 left on average to spend for the final 2 spots.
Tell Jordan Klein to take Bates shop out and then put either LeBron or Jokic into that, because then that doesn't go against your card number. I know, but I'm saying that he's not in the most valuable. Oh, he is. Okay, never mind. Just noticed it.
It just automatic. Whoever's the most expensive player in your lineup is automatically. It doesn't matter which spot they're in.
Good. Just making sure.
Yeah. No. So it's good that people know. We also got the Suns starting lineup, by the way. The Suns starters are.
Oh my. That is not what I expected.
Sun starters, we have the double big men in the front court, which is Landale and Ayton starting together. And we've got Craig, Lee, and Chris Paul. So this is going to change some of my exposures because I was not expecting Landale and Ayton to both start.
No. But of course, they're both freaking centers. So, joy. We needed more centers with Day'Ron Sharpe and Anthony Davis, and Jokic just locked. So 60% of my center spots are gone. I mean, this is the most obvious 2-center night there's ever been.
I mean, it should be an obvious 5-center night, but we just can't play that many centers.
You can on Sorare.
This is true. But we'll get back to my Sorare lineup in a second. We've got 2 lineups left to fill out, 44 salary, so 22 each. The way that salary is figured, by the way, it is just the average salary of the player's last 10 scores leading up to that game. So that's the way you find value over in Sorare. And we have projections that are viewable for free over at Stokastic.com. They'll help you build out some of your lineups. And all that you have to do really and generally to find value is just looking for guys that are in better positions they've been in lately because the salary is just figured based on the last 10 games. But let's talk about this Suns starting lineup, and then we will get back to the Sorare talk. So looking at the Suns here, what changes now that we have this starting lineup?
I mean, you still want to get to... Let's just look at it one more time because my brain is still not comprehending that. All right, Craig is not starting at the 4. You have Landale. You have Okogie, who, again, Okogie's still going to be somebody you should have a lot of. I'm pretty positive he doesn't go by the wayside, but I was pretty positive he was going to start at the 3. Craig was going to play 4 and move over. We have seen a couple iterations of them going double big man with Landale, and they love the guy, so there's no issue in terms of minutes there. I'm just going to end up with less of those guys. And I think I'm just going to start shifting a little bit towards Lakers pieces. But like, there's still a path where you get tons of minutes for Okogie off the bench, and he just ends up a little bit underowned. So like, I don't want to get a little too crazy. I mean, what do we have? 26 minutes for him. It's not like we were projecting him for a boatload of minutes for a chunky.
I was just going to, because our guys are so quick. It's already been updated.
That's
and
incredible.
The latest so we have him for right. Yeah. So at a projection update from 7 seconds ago per the timestamp here, 57 seconds ago now, because it just refreshed just because. But now the Phoenix minutes, we have Okogie projected for 23 fantasy points. We've got here, I'll read off some of these value guys. Landale's now at 27 fantasy points on DraftKings in our projections. Damian Lee at 25 fantasy points. And then Okogie and Craig both at 23. Then we've got Ish Wainwright coming in at 19. As far as FanDuel goes, that means that these guys end up for, once again, it's going to be more or less the same, but there are some minor differences. So want to read that out just for people who might want to know if they're playing on one site and not the other. Landale now at 26.3 over on FanDuel. Okogie is at 24.1. Damian Lee 23.7. Torrey Craig 23.5. And then for FanDuel purposes, 20.05 for Ish Wainwright there. So that's where our projections landed on these guys. What are you going to do with your ownership? How are you going to change the players you're getting to from Phoenix based on the starting lineup?
Yeah, so I mean, Landale's starting. I mean, we already had him projected for around 20% the whole time, and that's come down because of Day'Ron Sharpe, and now it's going to go back up because he's starting. I think what's going to happen is I'm still going to just jam a lot of Anthony Davis and Giannis here coming up. If people want to try to take the other shots on the cheaper centers, go ahead, but I feel like I'm almost like talking myself out of the inverse of what I was just thinking about before. I think I'm going to play a ton of Okogie and hope people get off of it. Like, he's coming off the bench. I know we just reduced his minutes a little bit there, but like, it's a bodies thing. And if people want to freak out like me, as I had like that initial knee-jerk reaction where he wasn't starting, I'm like, oh, I got to take 3 minutes off the top and he's going to be overowned. I think I just play more of it because he is shooting guard, small forward. He is a flat 3K. I think there's viability to just playing a lot more of him, making sure he shows up at small forward where there's no pay-ups besides DeRozan and Levine, two guys I'm already overweight to. I think this is a pretty fascinating starting lineup where it's like, I think Landale and Sharpe are guys I'm just going to end up on lower because of the ceilings of Giannis and Davis that I just want to be prioritizing even more.
You know, it's the thing with the Suns, they are so shorthanded that, to what you said before, like, you have to figure Okogie still plays minutes because who else are they going to play? Here are the wings they have available today. They have Ish Wainwright. They have Torrey Craig. They have Okogie. End list. That is it. Nobody else. That's one of the other reasons I guess they're going to the Landale 8 in front court. I would assume the first man off the bench still ends up being Okogie. Does Saben Lee, is he somebody you got to at all or anything that's going to
0% Saben Lee? I have none. Again, if I were building 150 today, I would have some Lee. I would have some Ish. I would have done some random things, especially now that, I don't know, Denver's up 12-0 in less than 3 minutes against Orlando. Timeout. Not great. Not a great start for them. Maybe Ish looks really, really good in blowout run. And Denver trying to solidify themselves. Phoenix now being the favorites in the West. They're like, not so fast, my friend. But yeah, no, Phoenix is still the team you would want to take. Shout out to you, by the way. I don't even know why I didn't lead with this at the beginning of the show. My dude over there is the futures god. And if you aren't in premium Discord just to like get Greg dropping futures bets in there, I don't know what you're doing because like 21 to, isn't that plus 2,100? Isn't that what you got for the Suns?
I also have them at 24, but 21 was the bet that I posted at the time. So there was a couple of trades that I was actually, I'm not going to say I was super confident that Durant was going to be traded to the Suns because I thought the most likely scenario was he was going to stay. But if he did get traded, I didn't think there was any team that would make sense other than the Suns, just because they had the assets and the Nets already made it clear previously that they weren't going to trade him unless they got comparable assets. So I thought the Suns were undervalued as is. And then I was just kind of looking at it, I was like, well, what if the Nets decide that they want to move on from KD now? There was just no other place that would have made sense other than the Suns. So I've got futures bets on them. I feel really good about it because they're like 4-1 now.
It's the Suns, but like there was also there was a part of me where it could have just been Kevin Durant instead of Kyrie, but going to Dallas, that would have been like the absolute stone cold nuts for Dallas, is having Durant and Doncic instead of Kyrie and Doncic. But alas, it's still going to be really fun.
Part of it too, though, is I placed the bet after the Kyrie trade and the market changed.
You did. Okay.
So it was sense. Like, as I thought, so the reason I thought the Suns had value is the market changed and the Suns odds came down and became,
and they were the only real team that had a legitimate chance of getting in before June this year.
That, and I just thought that it's a team that, like, remember, the Suns were really good last year. And this year they've struggled, but Booker's been hurt for most of the year. They're going to be fine once Booker comes back. Now, obviously, once Durant gets back, they're also going to be really fine. But the biggest issue the Suns are going to have this year is just, can they keep Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant healthy throughout the playoffs? Mm-hmm. That, to me, is a pretty big question mark. But clearly, either way, I'm in a scenario now where I have them at 21 to win, 24 to 1 to win the championship, plus 950 to win the West, and then plus 400 to win the NBA championship. So Unreal. Like it's not a hard situation to, hedge in a worst case scenario.
Just a little bit of that.
Exactly. I thought you were going to rub your nipples. That works too.
I wasn't. Yeah. I know Simon Cowell would be a fan of that, but I'm going to pass.
So let's go back to our Sorare lineups now. And also, let me make sure Discord that nobody asked a question. Well, by the way, really slow start for Jokic.
Yeah, it's not good.
And
I think you'll be fine.
Here, JEW. If I go Sharp and Landale for DK single entry, who else do you recommend to fill the lineup with besides Paul and Giannis? I feel like you have a shit ton of salary to spend if you have Sharp and Landale in the same lineup.
Yep.
So who else would we recommend at that point? Drew Holiday.
Yep. DeMar DeRozan.
Trae Young.
Yep, Trae Young.
Start to think about where else he's going to spend his salary.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan. Giannis, obviously.
Yeah, so he's saying he already has Giannis and Chris
Paul. He has
Paul.
Giannis and so yeah. Trae Young. I like DeMar DeRozan in terms of positionality. I think that makes a lot of sense. Paying down to 2 center spots. Levine would make sense, but I like DeRozan a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of the gamut. Otherwise, you can't spend all the money when you go to both of them. Like, it's almost a outward mistake not to have 2 of Giannis, Jokic, and Davis in almost every lineup.
15-3. Denver's up now. By the way, before, I think it was my Phil Arc left the super chat. It said, every day it seems like a Magic player lands in the optimal lineup. Which one do I play today?
Fultz assist, Fultz steal. That was nice.
Yeah, but maybe one of them won't be optimal today. The other question that we have in Discord, this is from, where'd it go? Oh, there we go. 4-prong digger, Okogie or Troy Brown. That's a Kogi for me.
Kogi. Yeah, Magic traded for Pat Bev. I would be shocked if Patrick Beverley played a game for the Magic. Shocked.
They already have 1 million guards.
They have 1 million guards. You're not developing Patrick Beverley. I'll just throw this out there. I think Patrick Beverley ends up on the Minnesota Timberwolves in the next week.
Wouldn't be shocking. He had good results with them last year and seemingly still has good relationships with although Beverly's largely sucked this year.
Yeah, he's been bad this year, but again, it's like a culture thing. And I think Patrick Beverley has always been, a guy who always surprised me when you dig into a lot of his analytics stuff, because I've just always watched him and I've never been overly impressed. And you hear other NBA players talk about him and it's, he's terrible and all of these things. I'm pulling it up here as I'm talking about it, but like, he's found a way in the league to like have pretty impressive expected win shares. We're talking 81st percentile last year with Minnesota. That was his best year in his last 3, including this year, where he's just the first time he's ever been negative in that regard. But with the Clippers, 92nd, 85th, 85th, 87th, 88th percentile. I mean, we're talking about a guy that found and carved out a role on good teams. Lakers, I do not call a good team. And obviously they've been without Anthony Davis for a majority of his tenure there. So it's going to pale and not look as good. But he can at least be effective without usage. And he's had an 11% usage this season and has found ways to just kind of be the defensive, decent individual that he is at times. So like Minnesota makes the most sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Especially he was apparently played well there for them last year. And like you said, it was also, now, did he go maybe a little overboard celebrating when they won in the play-in
My
game?
God.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
He reacted like college kids react when a mid-major team upsets a 1 seed in a college game.
Yeah.
He's like jumping on things. He's storming the court. He's taking his shirt off. It's like, all right, cool. You won the play-in game to get into the tournament.
Yep. And he was crying. He was sobbing. He looked like Embiid after losing an Eastern Conference final to Kawhi. That was hilarious too. Shout out Philadelphia, my favorite city.
All right, let's finish out this lineup. We got 2 spots left, and we've got an average salary of 22 cost to spend. I should probably figure out what the actual, because I know it's just the last 10 average, but I guess we could still just call it the salary of the players.
Yeah, salary. Last 10. You could just say L10. That seems fun. Sounds like a vertebrae when you say it like that, but L10. Yeah, L10. So let's talk Bradley Beal for a second there. My guy. So I'm pulling up tomorrow because I started building out. I will say it's insane how much goes into like building out for the next day to try to be accurate and good at this shit. It's just insane. Because again, our guys are doing unbelievable job of updating. I'm doing like a very rough hand version on my end, trying to like get stuff updated for the next day. But this is actually going ahead to Saturday, I believe, because they're not on tomorrow's slate. But they play the Pacers. And so that was the thing that I kind of started and highlighted there. You're getting an up-tempo spot. You have a chance of having no Kyle Kuzma. Even if there isn't a crazy amount of minutes, we're talking about a guy who has a 30 attached to it because of that minutes limitation. And as it goes up, like that's a guy for a 1-gamer against Indiana that makes a lot of sense to fire up.
All right, so put in Bradley Beal, and then I would have 14 left. I think I might have a Talen Horton-Tucker who would fill this out perfectly.
That would be perfect.
Yeah,
and I have to play now, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Like just has to.
Easy.
Because I'm THT.
Hit the submit. Hit the submit. Thank you, Jordan. There we go. We submitted it. So there we go. We built that one Sorare lineup and, got a little bit distracted by all the breaking news that we had in different starting lineups and whatnot. Even on a 4-game NBA slate, there was still a whole lot that ended up going on there. And let me make sure that there's no more questions in Discord, which there are not. Do we have any more questions in the YouTube chat? We don't. So we've got 3 minutes left here. Let's freak out about what's happening in the game. So by the way, a roaring comeback by the Orlando Magic. The game has gone from being 15-3 to 18-13. So maybe a little bit less risk of blowout now. But what's your concern level with Nikola Jokic? We're halfway through the first quarter. He has 2 points, 2 rebounds, 1 personal foul, and 1 turnover. Are you freaking out, Eric?
No. It's Nikola Jokic. It's like he can put up 40 in any given quarter. Like he's the only guy in the NBA. Well, him and Giannis Giannis, Luka. There you go. 3 guys that are capable of putting up like 30 or 40 in a quarter, just in terms of fantasy scores. So like, there you go. He'll be fine. He is about to face Wendell Carter Jr. for the next 3 quarters. Life is okay if you still back Jokic. Don't freak out until you get to halftime and he's at 20. Then you can freak out.
And so you're forgetting one other guy who could put up those kind of
Anthony Davis probably today under these circumstances.
Cam Thomas.
I honestly, this Cam Thomas stuff has gone too far. I cannot believe the way the Suns did not cover 4 and 4.5. They ended up it was a push on 4. Devin Booker misses 2 free throws. Cam Thomas comes down and hits a 3. It's foul. Go back to the line. 1 of 2. For Torrey Craig. Cam Thomas comes down another bucket. It was just like the last 30 seconds of that game is still going to haunt me forever.
If he scores 40 plus points again today, I'm changing my religion. And I'm just going to start praying to Cam Thomas.
Father, son, Cameron Thomas.
Yeah, I'm going to convert. I'm more of a sun worshiper right now. And I'm going to change that to Cam Thomas. If he goes crazy today. Because, the recent stretch that he's been on is unlike anything that we've ever seen. So Cam Thomas, who is currently pacing to break the recently set LeBron James scoring record. The last 3 games for Cam Thomas, he has scored 43, 47, and 44 fantasy points. I do not have exposure to him today. Did you end up playing him at all in large field tournaments?
No. I'd rather play Spencer Dinwiddie for 1/4 of the ownership.
Cool off tonight, Cam. Cool off tonight, Cam.
Take one night off, bruh. DFS, how about that?
He went from not listed to win most improved player of the year to now he has the third best odds. Yeah, if you go to...
There's a lot of season left. That's always so wild to me, is like the last 2 or 3 months matter so much more than at any other point in a season for something. What a stupid award.
Yeah, especially because if I won the award, I've talked about this before, I would almost be offended because it's a thing where it's like, hey, you kind of sucked last year. It's like, no, I thought I was pretty good. No, trust us. You sucked, but now you're considerably better. You're going to win this award. But right now, here's what we have for the odds. Lauri Markkanen's still the favorite, who I have him at 55-1. So that's my rooting interest this year. He's currently minus 145. Then we've got SGA plus 140, and then Cam Thomas on FanDuel at 12-1. Those are the three guys for 6-man. I do not buy into this recent Cam Thomas nonsense. There's just no way. Do you know what he shot from 3 last year?
28% based on
27%.
Yeah.
27%. No way. This is a very good guess, by the way. No way this keeps going. All right. That game just locked. Cam Thomas, cool off today. If you guys haven't done it yet, do us a big favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I hope you guys have a good night. I'll be back here with you tomorrow. I think Neil Orfield's going to be doing Friday Live Before Lock with me. So tune into that. Have a good night, guys.